Okay. Ed, we are online.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar today. Sorry for the delay. We are trying to get some presentations together and some people still online. But welcome to GTH DNA's webinar series. Today's topic is running a quality forensic DNA database program. My name is Ed McConnell. I am GTH DNA's Thailand country manager, and I'll be your moderator for today's program. We have a great lineup of international speakers today that will share their extensive knowledge about global best practices in DNA database management and overarching importance of quality assurance and standardization to DNA database management. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. Most of the program today will be in English, so please remember to switch over to the Zoom channel where our translators Kun Rex and Kun Melon will be translating English to Thai. Please hit the interpretation button and select Thai. Thank you in advance for your assistance, Kun Rex and Kun Melon. Also, we want this webinar to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to simply type your question in the chat box and we will address them as soon as they are noted or at the end of the presentation. And then finally, just as a heads up, we have built in a couple of short 5-minute breaks to stretch our virtual and real legs. The first break will be after Dr. Veden's presentation and the final one during Director Davies' presentation. These are quick breaks, so please be back on time as we will quickly move along with the program. So without any further ado, please allow me to move the program along and pass the screen to my boss and GTH DNA Asia Pacific Director, Saurabh Maurya, for some introductory remarks. Saurabh?
Thank you, Ed. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Ed said, we were having some technical difficulties. There's always something that happens, at the last minute, but we are fine now. Before I begin, I would like to request, I think General Direk is one of the audience. So General Direk, if you're there, can you respond to the chat so that I can invite you to the panel? Or anyone from General Direk's team from the Office of Forensics, if you can hear me, if you could respond. No, that's okay. Well, we will carry on for now. Maybe they're having some trouble as well, but General Direk would join us later, I believe. Carrying on with the program, I just wanted to set the context of this webinar and why we have organized this. So we at GTH DNA, under our regional advocacy arm, DNAforAsia, have specially designed today's program to cater to the specific requirements of law enforcement agencies and forensic scientists in Thailand and other Southeast Asian countries as well. When it comes to application of forensic DNA technology in controlling crime, this region has shown great promise over the last few years. While countries like Singapore and Malaysia have shown the way by establishing effective DNA databases backed by strong legislation, we now have Thailand and Philippines expanding their databases further. Even as countries like Indonesia and Vietnam prepare their pilot projects. As more countries establish and grow their DNA programs, the need of the hour is for forensic community to master effective management of databases, and at the same time ensure quality parameters are followed throughout the process. Now, we all know that forensic DNA is a powerful technology. There's no doubt about that. With new advances in this field every day, it is getting even more potent in terms of speed of analysis and accuracy of results. While this improves the ability of investigators to catch and prosecute criminals quickly, We must also remember that such complex and sensitive technology needs to be handled responsibly. Therefore, quality assurance and standardization of laboratory procedures becomes a must to assure not only the courts of reliability of results, but also to build public trust. In principle, DNA typing is capable of an extremely low inherent rate of false positive results. The technology is very dependable. So the risk of error will come from poor lab practice or sample handling, which comes from poor quality control. So we hope that today's program will help you better manage your DNA database workflows and build world-class quality systems in your labs. Without taking much more of your time, I will hand over the stage to our partners and speakers to take the proceedings forward. Thank you, Ed. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Saurabh. Appreciate it. It looks like we have General Derek with us, which is great.
Good afternoon, Ed.
Good afternoon. Today's GTH DNA webinar production is a collaboration with our long-standing friends and partners at the Royal Thai Police Office of Forensic Science and Thailand Central Institute of Forensic Science. Sorry, that just. So we would like to quickly hear some opening remarks from both. First, please allow me to introduce the Royal Thai Police Office of Forensic Science Deputy Commissioner, Police Lieutenant General Derek. General Derek, the screen is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Mr. Saurabh. Good afternoon, Ed and Dr. Waravi นะครับแล้วก็น้องๆ DNA ทุกคนนะครับครับสำนักงานพิสูจน์หลักฐานตำรวจเนี่ยนะครับสำนักงานตำรวจแห่งชาติเนี่ยเป็นหน่วยงานหลักของประเทศไทยที่รับผิดชอบงานด้านนิติวิทยาศาสตร์มากกว่า90ปีนะครับมีหน้าที่ในการตรวจสถานที่เกิดเหตุพิสูจน์หลักฐานในคดีต่างๆทั่วประเทศนะครับตลอด24ชั่วโมงเลยนะครับในอดีตเนี่ยเราสามารถคลี่คลายคดีต่างๆนะครับรวมถึงคดีสำคัญในทุกคดีนะครับในการตรวจสารเหตุของเจ้าหน้าที่พิสูจน์หลักฐานเนี่ยนะครับเรามักจะได้วัตถุพยานต่างๆเช่นพวกลายนิ้วมือแฝงหัวและปลอกกระสุนปืนนะครับคราบโลหิตเส้นผมเส้นขนต่างๆนะครับซึ่งคราบโลหิตเส้นผมเส้นขนต่างๆเนี่ยต่อมาเนี่ยสำนักงานพิสูจน์หลักฐานตำรวจเนี่ยเราได้เปิดเป็นกลุ่มงานตรวจทางชีววิทยาและ DNA ซึ่ง DNA เนี่ยเป็นวัตถุพยานที่สำคัญนะครับในทุกคดีเลยนะครับจากประสบการณ์ของผมในการตรวจสารที่เหตุนะครับแล้วก็การทำงานรวมทั้งเป็นอาจารย์สอนนะครับตามหลักสูตรต่างๆของที่ตำรวจเนี่ยนะครับผมได้ทำนายไว้ว่าDNA เนี่ยต่อไปจะเป็นวัตถุพยานที่สำคัญที่สุดนะครับที่จะใช้ในการคลี่คลายคดีต่างๆนะครับรวมถึงเนี่ยผมได้เคยอบรมบางหลักสูตรนะครับของไอเรียนะครับในหลักสูตรของ API เนี่ยผมก็รู้จักระบบโปรแกรม PODIS นะครับที่ใช้ในการจัดการฐานข้อมูล DNA นะครับมา10 กว่าปีแล้วเกือบ20 ปีนะครับแต่ก็ไม่เคยได้ใช้งานเลยจนกระทั่งทุกวันนี้ผมได้เป็นนักวิทยาศาสตร์อาวุโสนะครับในหน่วยงานแล้วนะครับก็เลยมีแนวคิดนะครับแล้วก็แผนการที่จะพัฒนานะครับประสิทธิภาพในการตรวจ DNA ของเจ้าหน้าที่พิสูจน์หลักฐานของตำรวจไทยนะครับให้มีความรู้ความสามารถนะครับรวมถึงมีเครื่องไม้เครื่องมือสำหรับ DNA นะครับให้ทันสมัยยิ่งขึ้นโดยเฉพาะที่สำคัญนะครับเมื่อเดือนพฤศจิกายนปีที่แล้วนะครับทาง GTS DNA เนี่ยนะครับได้มาจัดสัมมนาที่สำนักงานตำรวจแห่งชาตินะครับแล้วก็ได้มีการนะครับบรรยายให้ความรู้เรานะครับผมก็ต้องขอบคุณทาง GTS DNA นะครับคุณสรัพย์แล้วก็คุณเอสอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะครับที่ได้มาช่วยงานทางด้านสัมมนา DNA นะครับแล้วก็ได้มีการประชุมย่อยๆพูดคุยกันต่างๆนะครับโดยผมตัวผมเองเนี่ยก็จริงๆแล้วก็เป็นคนที่ศึกษาทางด้าน DNA มาตั้งแต่ ตั้งแต่สมัยเรียนมหาวิทยาลัยแล้วนะครับต่อมาก็ได้ทำงานทางด้าน DNA เพียงแต่ว่าไม่ได้บรรจุอยู่ในสายงานโดยตรง DNA นะครับได้แต่ไปทำงานทางด้านตัวต่างๆที่เกษตรหรือ CSI นะครับปัจจุบันเนี่ยผมได้รับผิดชอบนะครับเป็นนักวิชาอาวุโสและผมก็ตั้งใจที่จะพัฒนางาน DNA ให้ดียิ่งขึ้นนะครับวันนี้การสัมมนาในวันนี้นะครับก็ถือว่าเป็นจุดเริ่มต้นที่ดีนะครับที่จะได้พัฒนาความรู้ทางด้าน DNA ในประเทศไทยนะครับซึ่งต่อไปเนี่ยผมก็อยากจะให้มีการจัดสัมมนาแบบนี้เรื่อยๆนะครับโดยเฉพาะผมเคยได้ประชุมกับคุณสลับแล้วก็คุณเอฟไปแล้วว่าอยากจะจัดสัมมนาปีละหลายครั้งนะครับแล้วก็จะจัดให้มีDNA Day มาด้วยนะครับโดยผมจำได้ว่าตอนสมัยผมเรียนเนี่ยได้มีการใช้ DNA ครั้งแรกนะครับในการขี้คายคดีนะครับที่เมืองแลนเชสเตอร์ประเทศอังกฤษนะครับโดยท่านอเล็กเจฟฟี่นะครับซึ่งตอนนั้นผมก็มีความคิดว่าวันที่ใช้ DNA ในงานนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ครั้งแรกเนี่ยน่าจะเป็น DNA Day นะครับก็เป็นจุดเริ่มต้นในการพัฒนางานDNA นะครับในประเทศไทยให้มากยิ่งขึ้นนะครับแล้วก็สุดท้ายเนี่ยน่าจะได้ระบบโคดิสนะครับมาช่วยในงานDNA ของประเทศไทยเพื่อจะได้ปรับปรุงพัฒนางาน DNA ให้ดียิ่งขึ้นนะครับครับในเบื้องต้นผมก็มีแค่นี้นะครับก็ขอบคุณทาง GTS DNA นะครับคุณสลับแล้วก็คุณเอสมากๆเลยนะครับวันนี้ผมอาจจะเข้ามาช้าหน่อยต้องขอโทษด้วยนะครับก็ขอให้เริ่มดำเนินการเลยครับขอบคุณมากครับ Thank you very much
Great. Thank you, General Derek. We look forward to more of these events with the team, for sure. Now for some final opening remarks, please allow me to introduce Thailand Central Institute of Forensic Science Deputy Director General Dr. Warwi. The screen is yours, Dr. Warwi. Sarah, how did we want to share this presentation?
Sorry, I was on mute. Just give me a second. So Dr. Warwi, I will put up your presentation.
Great.
So Dr. Warwi, you can please guide me how to move forward. You're mute, sir. Dr. Warwi, you're mute. Sorry.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me already?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Please guide me to run your presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, can I speak in Thai? ครับ
Sure.
ก็สวัสดีทุกท่านนะครับ วันนี้ก็ผมแนะนำตัวแทนของสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์นะครับ ก็ขออนุญาตแนะนำเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของการทำงานของสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ที่เกี่ยวข้องกับงานในวันนี้นะครับก็คือเรื่องของระบบฐานข้อมูลดัชนีสารพันธุกรรมนะครับซึ่งทางสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์เนี่ยเราได้ใช้ข้อมูลแล้วก็ใช้ระบบนะครับเรียกว่า Combined DNA Index System หรือ CODIS นะครับ please next slide please เราเริ่มต้นในวันที่ 26 พฤศจิกายน ปี 2555 นะครับ ตอนนั้นทางกระทรวงยุติธรรมนะครับท่านปลัดกระทรวงยุติธรรมได้เป็นประธานในการทำหนังสือข้อตกลงหรือ Letter of Agreement ระหว่างสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์กับ FBI Crime Laboratory นะครับเพื่อลงนามให้สถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์นะครับสามารถใช้และก็ติดตั้งระบบฐานข้อมูลดัชนีสารพันธุกรรมหรือ CODIS นะครับตั้งแต่นั้นเป็นต้นมาครับ next slide please เราก็ได้มีการฝึกอบรมนะครับในปีถัดมานะครับจาก วิทยากรนะครับของจาก FBI นะครับและก็ได้เริ่มใช้ในเรื่องของฐานข้อมูล CODIS นะครับเป็นแบบแผนเบื้องต้นตั้งแต่ปี 2556 นะครับซึ่งในปัจจุบันนะครับ next slide please เราจะเห็นว่าในฐานข้อมูลสารพันธุกรรมของสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ที่เราใช้ CODIS เป็นพื้นฐานนั้นเนี่ยเรามีโปรไฟล์อยู่ประมาณ 216,086 โปรไฟล์นะครับอาจจะไม่ค่อยเยอะมากถ้าเทียบกับสำนักงานตำรวจแห่งชาตินะครับสาเหตุที่เรามีจำนวนฐานข้อมูลไม่ค่อยเยอะมากเพราะว่าในห่วงเวลาหนึ่งเนี่ยเรามีฐานข้อมูลที่เยอะกว่านี้ครับเพียงแต่ว่าพอเราใช้เรื่องของการระบบการ cleaning data ซึ่งจะทำให้ฐานข้อมูลหรือข้อมูลบางอันที่ไม่สมบูรณ์ข้อมูลบางอันที่ไม่เป็นไปตามมาตรฐานเนี่ยจะถูกคัดกรองออกไปนะครับเราก็เลยมีฐานข้อมูลอยู่ประมาณ 200,000 ซึ่งแบ่งออกเป็นดังนี้ครับเป็น forensic profile นะครับก็คือเป็นเรื่องของวัตถุพยานนะครับประมาณ 18,300 โปรไฟล์นะครับมีเป็นของ offender เนี่ยโดยส่วนใหญ่ก็คือ 140,000 นะครับ 1,000 โปรไฟล์ offender ที่สถาบันรับผิดชอบอยู่ก็คือผู้ต้องขังนะครับที่อยู่ในความรับผิดชอบของกระทรวงยุติธรรมนะครับจะมีเรื่องของ suspect นะครับประมาณ 39,000 นะครับซึ่งก็เป็นการรับผิดชอบในส่วนใหญ่ก็เป็น suspect ตั้งแต่ที่สถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์มีภารกิจในการทำงาน3จังหวัดชายแดนภาคใต้เมื่อประมาณช่วงประมาณ10 กว่าปีที่แล้วซึ่งปัจจุบันเนี่ยตรง suspect เนี่ยจะยังไม่เพิ่มขึ้นนะครับมีเรื่องของเหยื่อนะครับ victim เนี่ยประมาณ 10,000 นะครับแล้วก็มี reference นะครับประมาณ 1,000 กว่าโปรไฟล์นะครับแล้วก็มีเรื่องของ relative หรือญาติที่มาหาmissing person นะครับหรือว่าคนหายหรือว่าศพนิรนามเนี่ยประมาณ 1,200 โปรไฟล์แล้วก็มีโปรไฟล์ของศพนิรนามหรือคนนิรนามซึ่งยังมีชีวิตอยู่แต่ยังไม่ทราบว่าเป็นใครเนี่ยนะครับประมาณ 4,100 โปรไฟล์ครับโดยลักษณะของการเปรียบเทียบเราจะเห็นในสไลด์ถัดไปนะครับ next slide pleaseในการทำงานของสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์เนี่ยเราจะมีสถิติในการเปรียบเทียบหรือ matching นะครับจากโปรไฟล์แล้วบอกว่าเป็นใครเนี่ยในคดีอาญาใต้เนี่ยจะมีอยู่ประมาณ 2,053 ซึ่งเป็นช่วงเริ่มต้นในสมัยก่อนนะครับที่เริ่มนำเอา DNA มาใช้นะครับแล้วก็ใช้ในเรื่องของการระบุตัวบุคคลที่กระทำผิดนะครับคดีอาญาทั่วไปนะครับก็เป็นคดีอาญาที่นอกเหนือจาก3จังหวัดชายแดนภาคใต้นะครับก็โดยส่วนใหญ่ก็จะเป็นในส่วนของภาคกลางนะครับนนทบุรีปทุมธานีนะครับแล้วก็ที่เพิ่มขึ้นมาช่วงหลังนะครับก็คือเป็นเรื่องของการแมทชิ่งเกี่ยวกับบุคคลสูญหายหรือศพนิรนามนะครับที่อยู่ในความดูแลของสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ครับnext slide pleaseซึ่งสถิติเนี่ยนะครับเราจะเห็นได้ว่าการทำงานของเราเนี่ยตอนนี้เราจะยังมีการเปรียบเทียบแล้วแมทชิ่งเจอเนี่ยประมาณ 40-50 ต่อปีเองเท่านั้นเองนะครับซึ่งในส่วนของตามทฤษฎีที่เราต้องการจะให้ฐานข้อมูลนั้นเนี่ยได้ถึง 10% ของจำนวนประชากรเนี่ยจะทำให้ฐานข้อมูลเนี่ยเริ่มมีประสิทธิภาพและใช้งานได้มากที่สุดตรงนี้แหละครับที่เป็นสิ่งที่ทางสถาบันนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ก็ฝากให้กับทางเครือข่ายทางด้านนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ทั้งในส่วนของสำนักงานตำรวจแห่งชาตินะครับทั้งในส่วนของนักนิติวิทยาศาสตร์ที่อยู่ในส่วนของมหาวิทยาลัยนะครับซึ่งเรากำลังดำเนินเรื่องของการร่างพระราชบัญญัติฐานข้อมูลสารพันธุกรรมนะครับแน่นอนครับถ้าย้อนกลับไปเนี่ยมันมีเหตุการณ์หลายๆเหตุการณ์ที่ทำให้พรบตัวนี้ออกมาไม่ได้แต่ตอนนี้ค่อนข้างที่จะชัดเจนแล้วละว่าเราจะตีกรอบพรบตรงนี้เพื่อให้ไม่กระทบต่อการทำงานของ หน่วยงานอื่นๆนะครับก็เราก็เลยตีกรอบเฉพาะเป็นพรบข้อมูลสารพันธุกรรมของนักโทษที่เป็นนักโทษที่ได้รับการพิพากษาจนถึงที่สุดให้มีการจำคุกนะครับซึ่งจะเป็นกรอบในการทำงานของกระทรวงยุติธรรมเท่านั้นนะครับก็เลยขออนุญาตเรียนตรงนี้นะครับว่าให้ถ้าเกิดว่าในช่วงที่เราได้รัฐบาลใหม่ได้สภาใหม่แล้วเราจะมีการนำเสนอในส่วนพรบนี้เข้าไปนะครับก็ขอความกรุณาในส่วนของการประชาพิจารณ์นะครับว่ามีข้อดีข้อเสียอย่างไรเราก็จะได้ปรับปรุงต่อไปนะครับในสไลด์สุดท้ายครับ next slide please ในสไลด์สุดท้ายเนี่ยก็จะเป็นเรื่องของตัวอย่างครับของเคสที่แสดงให้เห็นครับว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยฐานข้อมูลสารพันธุกรรมเนี่ยมีความสำคัญจริงๆนะครับอย่างเช่นตัวอย่างตั้งแต่ปี 2004 นะครับเราย้อนกลับไปประมาณ20 กว่าปีที่แล้วเนี่ยเราใช้ฐานข้อมูลเนี่ยแมทชิ่งกับเรื่องของบุคคลที่ก่อเหตุใน3 จังหวัดชายแดนภาคใต้นะครับซึ่งตอนนั้นเนี่ยเรามีปัญหามากเลยกับการที่เราไม่มีพยานหลักฐานในเรื่องของพยานแวดล้อมพยานประจักษ์พยานหรือการโยงเข้าไปสู่ผู้กระทำผิดจริงเรามีแต่หลักฐานของ DNA profile ที่ตกอยู่ในที่เกิดเหตุนะครับแล้วเราก็สามารถที่จะนำเอาโปรไฟล์เหล่านั้นเนี่ยมาแมทชิ่งในฐานข้อมูลได้นะครับคดีที่สำคัญคดีต่อมาก็เป็นคดีถัดมาอีก10 ปีนะครับผมยกตัวอย่างแต่ที่สำคัญนะครับก็จะเป็นคดีที่เราเริ่มมีการทำงานร่วมกันกับศูนย์พิสูจน์หลักฐาน10นะครับจังหวัดสงขลานะครับเราก็เริ่มมีการแมทชิ่งจากในส่วนของพยานหลักฐานที่ทางศูนย์พิสูจน์หลักฐาน10นะครับได้โปรไฟล์มาจากที่เกิดเหตุได้โปรไฟล์มาจากพยานหลักฐานต่างๆที่สำคัญนะครับแล้วก็มาแมทช์กับตัวบุคคลที่เราสามารถที่จะแมทช์ได้นะครับแล้วก็ที่สำคัญก็จะเป็นคดีจะเห็นได้ว่าตั้งแต่ปี 2014 มาเป็นต้นมาเนี่ยครับเราก็จะมีการเชื่อมโยงกันกับฐานข้อมูลของศูนย์พิสูจน์หลักฐาน10นะครับก็จะทำให้กระบวนการของฐานข้อมูลเนี่ยมันสามารถที่จะทำงานได้มีประสิทธิภาพมากยิ่งขึ้นนะครับอันนี้ก็คือสิ่งที่อยากจะนำเรียนก่อนที่จะทุกท่านจะเข้าไปสู่ในเรื่องของบทเรียนวันนี้หรือว่าการบรรยายของวันนี้ที่เกี่ยวข้องกับเรื่องของระบบฐานข้อมูลนะครับสุดท้ายนี้นะครับก็ต้องขอบคุณทาง GTH นะครับที่เป็นแรงผลักดันสำคัญนะครับที่ทำให้การเกิดขึ้นของฐานข้อมูล DNA ในประเทศไทยนะครับได้เกิดขึ้นแล้วก็ผมคิดว่าในอนาคตเราก็จะมีกฎหมายที่รับรองเรื่องของฐานข้อมูลอย่างชัดเจนแล้วก็จะทำให้พวกเราในฐานะของDNA Man เนี่ยเราสามารถทำงานได้สะดวกยิ่งขึ้นแล้วก็สามารถที่จะแก้ไขและคลี่คลายคดีหลายๆคดีได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพครับก็ขอบคุณทุกท่านนะครับสวัสดีครับ Okay, thank you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Warwi. It's great to see that you are over 200,000 profiles now in the system. And we look forward as GTH DNA in helping you try to push forward this legislation in any way that we can help. So
Okay.
Those are both great goals and achievements. So
This
now,
year and next year. Thank
yes,
you.
for sure.
Okay.
We just need that election to happen first, right? For those not in Thailand, there will be a general election in Thailand within the next week. And that will establish a new government, which will then allow the legislation to start to process to move forward again. It's been in kind of a holding mode at this point. Thank you again, Dr. Warwi. We will now move into our main programming for the day. For our first session, DNA database management, global best practices. We have all the way from Sweden, Dr. Kristina Veden. I know I'm not doing that right. She corrected me earlier. She is a renowned forensic DNA expert and a CODIS administrator at the biology unit at the Swedish National Forensic Center, where she has worked for over 18 years. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Veden, and I hope it's not too early there for you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. And thanks for inviting me to your nice webinar day today. And I hope you see me and hear me. And I will also try to share my screen.
May I just make one small request? If Dr. Waterby and Eusebio, if you can also switch on your cameras for a group photo.
And you see my screen right now? Yeah.
Great. We can see that, Christina. Thank you. Please carry on. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So great. Today I would like to give you an overview of how we work with our Swedish DNA database. And as you said, I've been working with the DNA and DNA databasing for many years, since 2005. And I am mainly a forensic expert and CODIS administrator, but also a PhD. And I work at the biology section at the Swedish National Forensic Center. And excuse me. Excuse me, I cannot move forward. Yeah, here we are. And I would give you an overview of our organization, legislation, and some statistics and how we use CODIS, because we use CODIS every day, and also some information about our match reporting. And I will tell you about our international so-called PRIM searches. I will tell you more about this later on. And very brief, some information about our familial searching. But before I will map, so you all know where I am. Sweden is in the Northern Europe, and we're about 10.5 million inhabitants. And since 2015, when we had a big reorganization of our police, the police is organized in 7 police regions. And NFC, where I work, is situated in the southern part of Sweden. And to map in our National Forensic Center, so we're within the Swedish Police Authority, and we're organized here next to the National Operation Department, and then we have all the police regions and some other departments within the Swedish police. So you know the map where we are organizational. And the National Forensic Center in turn, we organized, so this, you see my pointer, yeah? If I point on the screen, yeah. So you see here that in Linköping, where I am, where I work, we have the section for information, biology section, drug analysis, and chemistry and technical section. And then we have our regional laboratories that are situated in the northern part of Sweden, Stockholm, west and south of Sweden. But the biology section is here in Linköping, and we only have one lab, biology lab, DNA lab, within the whole country and within the whole NFC organization. And our biology section in turn is divided into, we have one manager, of course, and we have 31 lab staff working with recovering evidence and stains. And we have about 50 case reporting officers. And we have about 24 extraction laboratory staff working in 2 different groups. And we have one typing group. And in this last group, we also have the staff working with our reference samples, buccal swabs. And here I'm organized here in this group, and we are 3 colleagues working with the DNA databases. That's make it about 126 colleagues. And we are dealing with all the DNA forensic work within the whole Sweden. And our production last year, so we did about 14,500 DNA cases, and we analyzed more than 70,000 stains, and we did more than 88,000 DNA analysis, and almost 5,000 stains were added to the DNA database. Besides this, we also handled 30,000 reference samples, mainly buccal swabs and mainly from suspects. I will come back to that. And since this is a very automated process here in Sweden, so we always do a double analysis of our reference samples. So we did about 60,000 DNA analysis of these samples, and about 27 reference samples were added to the DNA database. And when we searched all the stains and the suspected samples, then we reported more than 4,000 matches, mainly stain to person matches, about 3,700, and we also got 400 stain to stain matches. So let me tell you about the DNA database group. Me and my colleagues work full-time with the daily routines such as code research and match reporting. We also overview and do this PRIM step 1 international searches, although this is very automatic. It runs in a very automatic way here in Sweden. We do familial searching. We manage our elimination database and investigate any contaminations that we get. We also work with system development, and we do put a lot of effort on DNA database file maintenance. It's an important work within our group. We also write reports, newsletters, fact sheets, annual report. We do education, lectures, presentation like this sometimes, and also run some projects. And we also actually do some ordinary case reporting work, about 25% of our time. And our group also consists of our group leader. We also have an IT guy, a part-time position for us, who help us if we have run into any problems with CODIS or our DNA database systems. And we also have a colleague specialized on database quality work within the police, and she works at the Department of Legal Affairs, where they correct and updates data of any police record, but she is also helping us with updating data of our suspects and convicted offenders, and she works about 20% with this. So this is the DNA whole database group within Sweden. We are not any more people working with this. This is who we are. And how can 3 and some more % of staff manage to do all this? We have a very automated workflow. So our reference samples is coming in on a card, FDA card. We have the FDA card here and with some information on the card. But the main thing is that the police has to enter all the information on the card and regarding the swabbed person on a web formula. So all the information is entered into our laboratory information management system directly. We don't type in anything. The police type everything for us or they just put the information that they have in their system and send it right into our system. And the same for any stains that are sent in. They of course send in the items, but then they enter all of information about the items in a web formula as well. So we have all the information about our reference samples and our stains within our limbs. And then we also have several in-house developed expert system that communicates with our robots, our PCR machines, our typing machines, and also get all the information back and organize the information and send it back to our LIMS, which is more of a case reporting system. And this LIMS system is also connected to CODIS, and CODIS have, maybe should be an arrow back here because we report all the matches and case reports from the LIMS. Yes, so this is how we manage it in a very highly efficient way, I should say. So our legislation regarding DNA database, We had it since 1999, our first legislation, and it was amended in 2006. So right now we're on that legislation, but right now a new bill is being drafted, and we expect it to be completed next year. So we will have some more tools regarding DNA later on. But I will tell you about the legislation we have right now very shortly. So regarding to our legislation, we have 3 DNA database. We have the DNA database of crime scene samples, and we have the DNA database of suspects, and the DNA database of convicted offenders. But in Sweden, oh, sorry, wrong. In Sweden, you can only be sampled as a suspect. I guess when they put this legislation into place, they thought maybe that the police will never never miss to sample any suspect. So when you're a suspect, you are sampled, and we enter your DNA profile here in the database of suspects. And either you are not a longer a suspect, then we delete the profile, or you are convicted to anything but a fine, and then we can store your DNA profile here in the database of convicted offenders. But of course, sometimes it happens that the police miss or forget to sample a suspect. So therefore, in our amended legislation, we have pointed out this, so we will hopefully have also an arrow in here in the future. But right now, this is how it looks like in Sweden, and you can be sampled if you're a suspect for a crime that has prison within the sentence. Otherwise, you're not allowed to be sampled. And also our DNA databases are communicating with the police records every night to check whether a suspect really is a suspect any longer, or when the suspect is convicted. So we have also arrows here to communicate with the police records. And the number of DNA profiles in our database in Sweden, we have totally 214,000 profiles. We have about 153,000 convicted offender profiles. We have about 16,000 suspect profiles, and we have 45,000 profiles from crime stains. And in Sweden is like this, that when a crime scene is entered, and if it matched to a person, suspect or convicted offender, then we have to delete the DNA profile from the crime scene. So these crime scene samples are samples that have not yet matched to a person. And so totally we have nearly 170,000 profiles from suspects and convicted offenders. And how we use CODIS then, CODIS is used to perform auto searches and searches, and our prim searches, our international prim search. I will tell you more about that later. And new DNA profiles are added and deleted from CODIS every day, and we do auto searches every weekday and report matches directly. And we initiate these auto searches manually, and the matches are imported to our LIMS from where we report the matches. And the matches are reported the same day, and all other information about the profile is stored in our LIMS. So in CODIS, we only store information about the category, whether the profile comes from a stain or from an individual. And we store the reference ID of the profile and the DNA profile itself. So all other information is within our LIMS system. And in CODIS, we always do an elimination search first. All crime scene samples are searched against our elimination database before searched against any other profile. So if we have a match here, we delete the stain immediately. And as you see here, we have a DNA analysis kit. So we analyze 15 markers loci, We are starting now to turn to fusion, so we will have profiles with more information, 23, I think. We have started with our reference samples, and in the autumn we will start analyzing stains with this new fusion kit. But right now, and to be able to enter stain into CODIS, we need 5 loci to be, we need at least 5 markers to include a profile in CODIS, and that is not so many. But when we have a match, we always go back to the electropherogram and always use the whole information about the stain later on. But to search it in CODIS, we only need 5. And we always search at high stringency when do the elimination search. And we do the standard search. We search the stains and the reference samples against each other, and we have 5 + 1. We need 5 loci, and we also can have 1 mismatch, and we search at high stringency. And then we have also some mixture profiles in CODIS, and then we use 8. We need 8 markers to be searched, and we don't allow for any mismatches on our auto search. We can use a mismatch when you do manual search, for example, and I do always a search with 1 mismatch for quality reasons. But when we do this, I do that once every month maybe, but every day we use this editing. And we have moderate search stringency here. And when we have the matches in CODIS, we send back the reference ID of the candidate and the targets. And then our LIMS is used to report the matches. And we have a view in our LIMS where we have all the cases that have a match to be reported. And here, and by hitting this button, the LIMS system starts showing us the first match on the list. And it looks like this. And we first see the common DNA profile here. And then we have the target reference ID and the candidate reference ID. And then by hitting this button, open a match report, create a match report. The system automatically put together a match report for us, where we have, the system also keep track on where to send it. So here is the authority who will receive the match report. And we send the match report to one designated functional email address in each region. So this one is sent to the region South, Police Region South of Sweden. And we also have links to web pages where the police can find more information about the DNA database and the match, how we report matches and fact sheets and anything they want to need to know. We also have information here about that we are accredited, so they know that. And then we also have that's me who reported this match. And then we have the target, and then we have the candidate. It's a person here. And then we express the conclusion in a level, on a scale level. And then by hitting this button, then the match report is signed electronically by me by entering my digits numbers, and then the system will put together an email automatically for me, and also make an PDF of the Word file of the match report like this, and I just sent the email. And then when the police open it up, you can see here that it's has an electronic signature by me. So this is how we do it. And our national hit rate last year, we included about 4,900 states in the database, and 57% of these stains match to a person within the database, either a suspect or convicted offender directly, and another 900 stains that were included before, the year before, the years before, matched to a suspect during the year that was included in the database during last year. So yeah, this was about our national database. And now I will tell you shortly about the our PRIM searches. And PRIM is a name of, besides PRIM is a city in German, but it's also a name of an EU Council decision that allows cross-border cooperation, particularly in combating terrorism and cross-border crime. And it allows EU countries to exchange fingerprints and forensic DNA on a hit, no hit basis, as well as direct access in the vehicle owner registration. And as you see here, and maybe know that UK is not longer a EU member of EU, but they have signed this treaty, so they are exchanging both all these DNA and fingerprints within this cross-border cooperation. Norway has also signed it, and they are on the road to be coming on board, hopefully this year. Yeah, and this has been the PRIM. This EU Council decision was signed in 2008, and all the countries were supposed to be operational 3 years later. In Sweden, we had some not problem, but we needed to develop some of our systems. So it took another 2 years for us to come on board. But since 2013, we are operational. And right now we do automatic DNA searches with 25 countries within Europe. And how it works, you send all your DNA profiles to a new country to get hit and no hit answer. And then first you send all your stains, and from next day 2, you send all your new profiles from stains and suspect or convicted offenders. And when you get a hit, you have the information from the other country. You get the reference ID of the DNA profile in the other country. You will know if the other country has a stain or a person. And you will also see the DNA profile itself. But if you want to need more information about this profile, example, the name or why this guy is within the other country's DNA database, you can send a so-called step 2 request to the other country. And then you use the Interpol, Europol, or Schengen channels for that. So the PRIM DNA step 1 is just to search for matches. And when you have a match that you're interested in, then you can go step forward with this PRIM DNA step 2 and send the request to the other country. And so far, and this is how the PRIM match report looks like. It looks like our national report. But here we have included, beside all the other information that we have in our national report, we have also included a link here, so that when the police get this match report, and if he or she is interested of a DNA profile in the other country, here's a link to a web formula where they can enter in information needed to send this step 2 request to other countries. And in this example, we have a guy that is sampled as a suspect. And when we searched him, we find out that he is also in the database of Germany. And we have a stain from him in Austria and a stain from him from France. So if the Swedish police is interested in this guy, they can send the information, send a step 2 request to Germany, Austria, and France to find out in Germany, why is this guy in the database in Germany, and maybe Austria and France is interested to get the information from the Swedish and German police as well. So you can exchange information, and sometimes the purpose is that this guy can be sentenced to maybe a more severe, a longer prison sentence or fine sentence than if this information is not, if you don't have this information. So Since 2013, we have reported more than 27,000 matches. And as you see here, we get most matches with Germany and France. And they, together with the UK, has the biggest DNA database and bases in Europe. We also get a lot of matches with Denmark and Finland, who are our neighbors. And of course, criminals are crossing the border to the neighbor countries. So I think this is a very good cooperation, and we get a lot of matches and can help the police solving mostly not severe crimes maybe, but burglars, breaking-ins, that kind of crimes are, you can see that some people are traveling around Europe committing crimes in many countries. And that can be helpful to get information from other countries to solve these types of crimes. So finally, I will tell you a little bit of our familial searches that we do in Sweden. Familial searches is permitted by law since the 1st of January 2019. And using the information that we already have in our law enforcement DNA databases, we search for biological parents, children, and full siblings of a person who left a stain of interest. And we report a ranked list of candidates to the police, and mainly stains from severe crime have been familial searched so far. And we use a program called Familias, and you can download it for free here using this link. And all suspect and convicted offenders in our database in CODIS, as well as the stain to be searched, are exported from CODIS and imported to Familias. And using Familias, we do 2 searches, 1 parent-child search and 1 full sibling search. And Familias calculate a ratio, likelihood ratio for a parent-child or sibling relationship with a person who left the stain. And Familias do this for every individual in the DNA database and then present a rank list for each search. And the first person on each list is the one with the best likelihood for a parent-child or sibling relationship with the person who left the stain. And then if it's a good practice maybe to do additional analysis of the persons on this list. But in Sweden, we're not allowed to save any reference samples. We have to destroy them within 6 months. And in practice, we do destroy all reference samples after analysis. So we cannot do any additional Y chromosomal analysis, for example. So the police will have a rank list of what we have and what we get from our database. And during the years, we have first year we did 53 familiar searches, and then 28, 22, 25. And this year I have done 16 so far. And the number of crime scene samples that were identified with the help of a parent, child, or sibling in the database. So the first year we were pretty lucky. We could find the identity of 3 of the stains. And the next year, 0 of them. And then we have find the identity of 1 of these stains every year. Yeah. And so to give you a short overview of our DNA database systems. So first of all, we have our LIMS, including the DNA database. And the police use web-based requests to send in information regarding the crime scene samples and reference samples right into our LIMS. The LIMS is connected to CODIS, and CODIS is connected to all the 25 countries within Europe. And case reports and match reports are automatically reported from our LIMS into the police case management system. And regarding the PRIM matches, if the police wants to know more information of a stain in another country, they can use the web-based PRIM step 2 request and fill it in, send it to our single point of contact, our international unit placed in Stockholm. And their system communicates also with our system and get information automatically from here to be able to send out this request to the country of interest. Our LIMS also communicates with the suspicion directory, with the criminal records. And we also have some automatic quality control system to have helping us having good quality of our information. And then we have Familias, our system that is not automatically connected yet to our LIMS. So this is then an overview of our system helping us with our DNA databases. And finally, this is the DNA database group. We have my colleague Karin, Lars, our boss Anna, and myself, and they are all sending their regards to you all. And that's everything I had from Sweden. And thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to try to answer them for you.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Ed, I believe we have lots of questions for her.
Yes, we do. We have some questions that have come in, and I will try reading them, or I may call the person out if it's something that I can't explain very well. But we have the first question is from Abdul Rashid. Can you explain more with us on how to manage elimination database and investigate contaminations?
Yeah, when we have a contamination, when we find, when we get a match between a stain and a person within the database, in the elimination database, then I always contact the person. It could be a colleague of mine here working at the biology section in Linköping, or it can be in our elimination database. It's according to our legislation, it's obligatory to be sent in the sample if you work as a crime scene investigator, or if you work at NFC dealing with our evidence. So then I send an email to the person and ask them to contact me, and then we have a discussion. I always very polite ask them if they remember this case and the item, and if they know if something strange happened or not. And some people, oh, it was this and that, it was very hard, this and that. They can be any situation. They said, maybe I have this colleague that I'm trained and I was talking more than usual. It can be anything, but very often it's like I wear all the protectional that you should have, for the mouth, the clean gloves, anything. So very often you cannot really explain how the contamination appeared, but sometimes you can. And then we just try to get aware about if we can see any patterns. We had, if we see any patterns, then we communicate that to the police and the crime scene officers and the colleagues of mine to be careful. And and the mission is that you should become aware and perhaps be more, work more carefully next time if possible. Maybe we already do that. So it's just for quality reasons.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. We have a couple more, so I'll get to the next one from Maya Abdul Rahman. Sorry. May I ask one question regarding the legislation? What is the reason Swedish DNA legislation needs to be amended?
Yeah, it's like I said, that we want, like this, we have right now we have different legislations regarding DNA, fingerprints, and facial recognition. So first of all, we want the legislation to become equal, so the police can take all these DNA, fingerprints, and facial photos at the same time. Right now it's different, so that is the major thing. And also we have some some things that we've been discussing during the year. So we send our thoughts and wishes to the people working with the legislation, and they have put this together. So it's been a work for three years right now, I think, to cover up and to get the legislation work as it works now, but with some amendments. But the main reason is to keep these three biometric having the same legislation for that.
Okay, great. And then I guess kind of on that same topic, we have a question from G. Do you have a problem about collecting DNA from convicted offenders? Because I think Sweden may have a data protection law.
Sorry, once again, I didn't get the question. Do we have a problem?
Oh, is there an issue with collecting DNA from convicted offenders because of a data protection law?
No, I shouldn't say that. I think it's just that the legislators, I don't know really, but I think they thought that everyone who is convicted is first suspected for something. So I think they thought this is enough, but it has nothing to do with data protection. I think it was just how they built the legislation in the first place.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then we have a series of questions from Natty. We'll start at the beginning here. Do you now use minimum 8 original CODIS loci for matching, or any 8 loci?
Any 8 loci that we use is for our national purposes. So we use the ESX kit before. So any of these loci.
Okay. And then if one of 8 loci has 1 allele, is that locus still count in 8 minimum loci for matching?
So Ed, what I'll do is we'll allow
Yeah.
Natty to talk. So maybe Natty can ask the question himself or herself. I'm not sure. I'll just allow Natty. You can talk now. Natty, can you hear us? Okay, maybe we continue with that. I don't think Natty is able to do that. I think the other question, Ed, was that if one of 8 loci has 1 allele, is that locus still count in 8 minimum loci for matching?
Yes, yeah. But we always analyze the match using our system DNAforAsia or looking at the electropherograms very carefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
then,
I think,
you
yeah,
want
the
me to
additional
move on?
question, Ed, please, there's, I think, just an additional question from Natty, so you can address that.
Yes, there's one other from Natty. For familial searching, what likelihood ratio do you use for the criteria?
We report any candidate that has a likelihood ratio from 300. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Very
the
good.
lists are usually about 3 to 20, 25 candidates, usually.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question is from Muji Novrita. Is there any platform in DNA database software to exchange information about DNA regionally?
If we have any information about the region of the state, was that the question?
The question is, and I think I might know the answer to this question, but it says, is there any platform in DNA database software to exchange information about DNA regionally? And I'm guessing it's CODIS that you use. to
Yeah, it's CODIS, and we, between the regions in Sweden, we have all the police regions send in their DNA items to us. So we have managed the national DNA database is for all 7 police regions. There's only one database.
Okay.
That is managed by NFC and me and my 2 colleagues. Yeah.
And then
And
the share with the other countries, you use the CODIS.
yeah,
Oh.
CODIS has this Prim feature as well, so you can use CODIS for sharing profiles with the other European countries. Yeah.
So just to ask on that question, Christina, do you the Prim countries, do they all use CODIS or
No.
some?
No, we are many countries in Europe. Maybe you, Seb, you know the numbers. Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Belgium. Yeah, many countries use CODIS, but not all of them. So many other countries have their own systems, but they all can communicate with each other because the European countries has decided how to share the communication and the criteria for this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and there is just two other questions. Specifically, one was just after the webinar, can they have can you share your PowerPoint for all the participants?
Yeah, I can send you updated one, Saruba, so, and then you can share it, because I noticed one thing that I would like to fix before sharing it with you.
Sure, Christina, as long as we have your permission. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I will send you another one that you can share.
Sure.
And then we have one final question, and I might ask the person asking the question to ask it. It's Rawirat Chansuko. If you're out there, please go ahead and ask your question. Otherwise, I can try to read it for you.
Yeah, I think I'll step in and just for time's sake, and because it can get complicated. I think what the question is that a reference match requires 5 loci and a mixture match requires 8 loci. Where did the number 5 and 8 come from?
Good question. It's yeah, if we use these numbers, then we will have most oftenly correct matches. If we would have used 4 or 7, then we would have more likely false positive matches. We still get that using 5 and 8, but we don't get that many false positive matches. So it's a good threshold, so to say, for our database to get lots of matches, but not too many false positive matches that need to be evaluated more thoroughly.
Okay, and it looks like one last question has come in, and I think we'll do this and then go to a quick break. Does that sound good, Sarah? Okay, so the last question is from Sirat Mindkurd. For DNA profile of prisoners that you keep in your database, do you keep the full profile or a partial profile? And if a partial profile, how many loci?
From reference samples? No.
Yeah, for the DNA profile of a prisoner that you keep in your database.
That's right, reference sample.
Yeah, the reference samples are always from one person, of course, and no mixture, but we have actually entered 18 some profiles in our system. I think there are about 18, 20 multi-allelic offenders. So we see that as well. Yeah, and we have entered them as well into our database. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think that's all the questions we have, and I think we are due for a quick 5-minute break, and then we will come back and move from Sweden to Spain. So we'll do a quick break, and let's see, 5 minutes would be 2:26. So let's try to be back by 2:26. Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. And if anybody has, I'm sure people will have more questions. So please send it to us and we will direct it to Christina.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we start again, Sarb?
Yep.
Okay, so I know it was a quick break. And there was one more question that came in for Dr. Whedon, and we will get that to her and try to get an answer back to you. But moving on, those questions, all those questions were great, so keep them coming. Next, we move from Sweden to Spain for another perspective on DNA database management global best practices. So please help me welcome Spain's National Administrator of their DNA database and Chief Inspector of Spain's National Police, Eusebio Lopez Reyes. Thank you for being with us today, Chief Inspector Reyes. And
Thank you.
Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Ed. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. An honor and, of course, a responsibility to speak to a different country about the management of the DNA database in Spain. And it's more difficult if you speak after the excellent presentation of Christina. This has been amazing. And well, I'm going to share my presentation with all of you. I hope you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Well, okay. We're going to speak about the management of the DNA database and the perspective from Spain. I usually like to start the presentation to speaking about a small introduction related with the forensic genetics, because as you know, it's a young discipline, but have suffered in a very short time a tremendous evolution, becoming a science with his own entity, distancing from the legal medicine and genetics in general. No? It's the origin of the forensic genetics. And the grand events of the evolution of the DNA is starting with the system ABO in the early of the 10th century, as you know, when we only come to discriminate the person involucrated in a crime. Then the next evolution is to use the human leukocyte antigens in the middle of the 20th century. Then we pass for the genetic finger, the BNTRs, the variable number of tandem repeats. As you know that Alec Jeffries discovered the techniques of the length polymorphism of extinction fragment. Then the know for the population for the recent problem that we have with COVID, the PCR, developed by Mullis in 1986, that give us the possibility to allowing the in vitro specific region of the genome, whatever genome. And then we pass for the STR, the microsatellite region that allowed the efficacy of the PCR to be increased in a considerable way. Okay, what is the next step? The next step obviously is to create the DNA database. The origin of the DNA was in the United Kingdom in 1995. It's the first country that created a DNA database for introducing genetic profiles and to search to each other. And then the United States with the creation of CODIS in 1994 and launched in 1998. This event is one of the most important events in order to increase exponentially the possibilities of the identification with the use of DNA. But for different reasons, as you know, is not assumed in the same way by different countries, which is an important obstacle to exploring all the possibilities offered of criminal acts.
Eusebio,
yes?
Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I think your presentation is not moving. Can you make it full screen and just maybe focus on the slide that you're talking about?
Let me one moment. I try to start again. Let me one moment. This is the presentation. Right now? You can see the move?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes?
Thank you. If you could just repeat, because I think this is a very interesting slide.
Okay, sorry. Let me one more.
Sorry, Eusebio, I think you've gone to mute. Sorry.
Okay, right now?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You can see the presentation,
Yep.
the move.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I repeat this. I usually like to do an introduction related with the evolution of the DNA database, the evolution of the genetic forensic, and we have speaking about the creation of the DNA database. As you can see here, the United Kingdom is the first one, and then the United States was created in 1994, but finally is used in 1998. Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. Sorry, this is the last slide.
Okay.
Yes.
No problem. It always happens with everybody, so it's okay. Please, yeah, sure. Please carry on from where you want.
Sorry. Then you can see, okay, right now?
I think it's in presenter mode.
Okay. Well, as I told you, when we are speaking about the DNA database, there is one problem with the different countries because not all of them create or that they have different kind of problem to create the DNA database. Okay. And as I told you, is essential for development the full potential of the DNA in solving crimes and identify unidentified person. And the non-establishment in a country that has invested in setting up genetic laboratories, acquiring expensive tool, and robotic platform for extraction, quantification, and DNA amplification, in addition of the training of the staff and the people that is working in the laboratory, it's like, let me, the expression to have a Ferrari in your house, okay, but you don't have full in order to fill up this Ferrari, okay? You have an incredible laboratory, you have the personnel, you have the platform in robotics, but you don't exploit all the possibility that offer the DNA in order to solving crimes and to identify unidentified person, okay? Well, the next step that they are going to speak about is CODIS and the Spanish hierarchy. Well, CODIS was installed in Spain in the year 2000 by the National Police. At that time, there were few software available. Only Germany, Austria, and United Kingdom were the only European countries with database installed, and there was not much information related with the operation of this software either, okay? But behind the software of CODIS was the FBI. We are not to say that they are a perfect institution, but I think this institution with credibility for all the people over the world, okay? And to have a software development by the FBI is synonymous with success in most of situations that is happening in this case. Obviously, what usually the country asks is what is the money, what is the cost to have this kind of software and to use them in a country, okay? And this was our face, this was our reaction, what the FBI told us that it was a free software. Amazing, a free software. And
sorry, Eusebio, I'm sorry
yes.
to button again. I think your presentation is on freeze. So I have an idea. I have your presentation. Would you like me to roll it?
Yes, no problem. Yes.
Can you tell me which slide you're on so I can be there?
Yes, I am on the Scottish and Spanish hierarchy. I don't know why you couldn't see it. It's very. Let me one moment.
Yeah, I mean it's just frozen, right? So yeah.
It's possible right now.
Now I can. Now we can see it. Great. Thank you.
Yes, it's a problem with the screen here. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
You can see right now?
Good. Now it's good. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Sarwap. It's the problem of the virus, okay?
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay. Well, as I told you, there is few software available. We are speaking about the FBI, like a very important police institution with credibility for all the countries. And what is the phase that we put when the FBI told us that this was a free software, okay? And 23 years later, right now, we have enough experience in CODIS, 23 years to use this kind of software, and we can confirm that it has been a good choice because of the versatility of the program, because it covers a large number of cases for the continuous improvement, because every year and a half, 2 years launch new versions with significant improvements, and the quality help desk service provided to any incident and because for Europe today, like Christina said, has allowed the exchange of profiles outside the border to be fast, efficient, and effective. Okay. Well, I would like to tell you what is the situation right now related with the DNA database, because I think it will be important for your country. Well, Spain is special for many things, like other countries, but in this particular is important because we have a special situation with the different institutions here in Spain. We have 3 institutions at national level. 2 of them is depending from the police force. As you can see here, there is the map of Spain, the Guardia Civil. The Guardia Civil is a military police, okay, that have competence in all Spain, but usually work in the small city, towns with less than 30,000 people of population, okay? The Guardia Civil only have 1 laboratory in the center of Spain, in Madrid. And then we have a national police. The national police with the same competence as the civil war, but in this case is a civil police, okay? And usually work in the big cities with a population over or above 3,000 people, okay? In this case, the national police have 6 laboratories in different regions of Spain. And finally, we have another institution at the national level, is the National Institute of Toxicology, that is dependent from the Ministry of Justice, okay? And they have 4 laboratories. Other situation that we have, especially in Spain, is that we have a special police in a specific region in Spain. First of all is the SAINA. The SAINA is working in the north, in the País Vasco, it's a region of Spain. Then we have the Mossos d'Esquadra that is working in Catalonia. And finally, we have the police, National Police of Navarra that is working only in this region, okay? Every of these police have his own laboratory, and they are working in the actual situation of the DNA police database, okay? All the institutions have their own laboratories that are currently analyzing genetic profiles, and obviously the proportion of analysis is very different, and the contribution to the database depending on the laboratory. But the most important thing is that all of them perform analysis with all the guarantees. That finally is the most important matter for at national level and obviously for international framework of exchange room, and that we are well to see in the following slide, okay? Well, the hierarchy of Spain right now is like that. You can see here that Spain started with CODIS in the 2000 year, okay? But there are no connection until we suffered the terrorist attack in Madrid on the 11th of March in 2004, when the CODIS software was installed in the Guardia Civil institution, with the purpose of beginning the exchange genetic profiles between all the laboratories that is working with the DNA forensic genetic profiles. And at that moment, it was necessary to create in the Secretary of Spain, on the Ministry of Interior, the new node that is called for the BISDs, okay, in order for development the coordination point of the 2 institutions that at that moment is going to working together to share the genetic profiles of every laboratory, and obviously because we need a national contact point for the exchange of genetic profiles in the PRUM treaty. Okay, is the PRUM treaty is the legal approval that we use in order to exchange the genetic profiles inside Europe. Okay. And then the rest of the laboratories is starting to work in the DNA database in 2007, the Mossos d'Esquadra, in 2008, the China, 2010, National Toxicology, and finally in 2012, the Police of Navarra. Okay, this is the actual hierarchy of CODIS that we have here in Spain. 6 LDs node, and 1 responsible, that it is the position that I have here in the Ministry of Interior, in order to coordinate all the laboratories in the search of genetic profiles, and to be the national contact point with Europe in order to share the genetic profile of Spain with the other one, okay? One of the most important things here is that CODIS give us the possibility to have this hierarchy, okay, automatically, and obviously we have the possibility to connect in a very easily and efficient way with whatever a country over the world in order to exchange the genetic profile that is happening in Europe, okay? Well, only to show you what is the specific situation carried out in the Spanish database, we have right now 2 automatic configured auto-search with STR. First of all, we have the file that we use for identification of biological trace and identification of sample of no origin in order to clarify crimes and cooperate with the Justice Administration, okay? We have created in CODIS the index generic with all the genetic profiles with pure profiles, forensic unknown, the accused suspect, convicted offender, suspect noun, juvenile, long template DNA. And we everyday development and auto-search in CODIS like involucrate the 2 index, generics, again generics, okay? In this case, all the profiles collected in the requirement sent against the reference samples, and when we give us the possibility to clarify criminal acts, and the other half to link the different criminal acts associated with the same person. We use the criteria age 2 in high, 8 alleles required to report a match, and 2 possible mismatch with the stringency of high. In the other side, we have the index of mixture, okay? And well, we introduce the forensic mixture that come into play in addition to the previous one, to the genetic profiles that is introduced in the index of generic. In this case, and in order to perform more efficiency search, we conduct 2 search, okay? One of these with 10 alleles required to report a match and 0 possible mismatch, and another one with a stringency moderate that we have the criteria of 11 alleles required to report a match and 1 possible mismatch. No? In order that the experience that we have with this kind of auto-search with mixture, we see that it's better to let in the mixture 1 possible mismatch in order to improve the possibilities to find the person compatible with the forensic mixture, okay? Well, then I would like to show you what is the result that we have only during the last year. With these auto-search, we clarify more than 5,000 crimes, like an offender hit, okay? More than 1,000 were clarified in the auto-search in the national level, in SD's nodes, okay? And near to 4,000 in the different laboratories that develop his own auto-search in the LD's node, okay? And we have the possibility to link more than 6,000 crimes, like CODIS called forensic hit, because we have the possibility to link the different crimes that the same person is committing, although we don't know what is the person responsible, okay? But the DNA database obviously link all these genetic profiles in order to know that it's the same person that have committed this kind of crime, okay? Well, I only want to show you the different crimes resolved in the SD's nodes at the national level. As you can see here, important is more than 100 sexual aggressions. We have resolved 61 homicides, and other important thing is the drug trafficking, for example. We have 24 and another different crimes that give us the final result in the national level of more than 1,000 crimes resolved in the auto-search in the national level. And then I show you here the result that they have the different laboratories individually, the different nodes that have a lot of more quantity of results, because obviously they are developing every day the auto-search with the same criteria at the national level. As you can see here, for example, that they resolved more than 2,500 burglary during the last year, okay? Well, the other file that we have in Spain is that we call IN10 Felix, is the file created with the purpose of genetic identification of missing person and unidentified corpse of public, social, and judicial interest. And we have here 3 indexes. The first index is as we call social interest, unidentified person and unidentified human remains. We have the other index related with relatives, biological father, mother, sibling, biological child, and maternal relative and paternal relative. And we develop every day the auto-search of these different index. In this case, with 9 alleles required to report a compatibility, and in this case, with 0 possible mismatch, okay? And on the other side, we have the index of missing person, where we introduce the genetic profile related with the person that are alive. A brush, a razor, something when we can find the genetic profiles of the person when we was alive, okay? We call them missing person and the missing person, and we develop an auto search with the index social interest, okay? In this case, we use H alerts required to report a match and 2 possible mismatch in the same auto search that we develop for the generic against generic. Well, during the last year, we have the possibility to identify 139 corpses, unidentified persons, unidentified human remains, only during the year of 2022, in order to see what the efficiency in IPS code is for identify familiar and person that we couldn't identify with the normal procedure, okay? Well, something that is important here in Spain is we have 2 institutions for regulatory, the introduce and the use of genetic profiles. The first level is regulation for a law. This is the name of the law, and it's in 1976 from the year 2008, okay? And this law created the National Commission of Forensic Youth in Spain that is dependent under the Ministry of Justice, okay? This institution has the task of establish the certificate standard, the accreditation system, and the official quality control that must be submitted to the laboratories to carry out DNA analysis and to contribute to the genetic profiles to the police DNA database. The National Commission of the Missing Person is in charge of establish what is the requirement for a genetic laboratory to introduce genetic profiles in the DNA database, and the moment there are 2 explicit requirements. The first requirement is the one of the laboratory must to pass at least 1 annual external quality control for among the following. One of them is recognized by the International Society of Forensic Genetics, okay, and the other one is we call ISFG, okay, or by the European Network of Forensic Institutes, EMSI, respectively, as I can see you here in the screen, the quality control of DNA polymorphic of the Spanish and Portuguese group of the International Society of Forensic Genetics, and the quality control of DNA polymorphism of the German group of the International Society of Forensic Genetics, GENAP, is the official control of laboratories belonging to EMSI, okay? For this reason, all the laboratories that want to introduce genetic profiles in the DNA database unless want to pass one of the external control quality. And the second requirement is that all the laboratories have to take in account the accreditation by ENAC according to the standard ISO 17025, okay? ENAC is the actual, sorry, ENAC is the actual accreditation institute for the application of the European countries, the regulation of regulates the operation of accreditation of the different laboratories in Europe. If you can share the DNA database, if you want to share the genetic profiles with the different countries in Europe, okay? Well, and there we have a second institutions for regulatory, the management and the auto search in the DNA database, that is called CONSIGENI, okay? CONSIGENI is the National Committee for Regulation and Coordination of the National Identified Management System obtaining from DNA, and the function are more technically, okay, more than the National Commission of Forensic Youth in Spain. We write and approve and modify the technical procedure manual in order that all the laboratories take clear what is the shared criteria, the security policies, the coordination between the different auto search, what is the new implementation that we're going to carry out, and if it's necessary for different laboratories, the training and practicing codes in order that all the laboratories work in the same way, okay? All use the same criteria, and if they have any type of problem, we join together 1 or 2 times every year in order to specifically determine what is the auto search, what is the criteria, what is the minimum number of loci that we require to report a match, is all this kind of information important for the laboratories in order to Spain work in the same way all the laboratories, okay? Well, now I would like to show you what is the new improvement and the possibility that offer CODIS to the country that is working with this software. Well, in the latest with this light improvement that we will carry out here in Spain, one of these is the use of pedigree tree. It's a module very useful for us. Why? Well, we see in a very moment of time that the number of the unidentified persons is increased, and it's happening the same with familiar circles. What happened with that? This generated a lot of adventitious matches. As you know, CODIS development and the auto search in the specific way, okay? Usually the CODIS don't discriminate the presence of two family circles and the possible candidates offer are independently, okay? As if they have no relationship with the family members seeking for the same course. The search is therefore less efficiency and generate long analysis time based on the metadata studies to determine the real compatibility, okay? Is usually is very common to find that one of the relatives that is trying to find an identified person is compatible, but not the other, because CODIS don't have in account that the two relatives are for the same familiar tree, the same pedigree tree. And this gives a lot of possibility, advantageous matches that require a lot of time in order to determine if finally this unidentified human remains is compatible with this person or not, okay? And what is the second problem that we have with the normal auto search? When we try to find the single brother seekers, okay? Usually the possibilities of finding compatibilities in search with STR decrease considerably because some brothers are not very compatible in STRs, okay? Due to the random genetic inherit. In this case, we use in Spain an expression that say that the two brothers are similar like an egg to a chestnut, okay? We can find that two brothers that are for the same father and mother, finally, they are not so much compatible with the STR because the possibility of inherit is different. You can inherit the 50% of difference from one father and for the other relatives, and your brother is possible to inherit the other different quantity of DNA chart. And what happened that usually in a 95% of the auto search, in the case that we use single brother, the CODIS don't give us any time for result, okay? What happened with the pedigree manager? Well, the pedigree manager, we give us a lot of possibility because first of all, they take account all the members of the family circles, okay, together, the father, the mother, the brother, the cousin, the son. At the same time, we can add another analysis, not only the STR, we can use Y chromosome, we can use mitochondrial DNA, okay? And it reduce in an important way the number of adventitious matches, okay? And the pedigree manager lets us to develop a better auto search with biological sibling, because in the case that you are not compatible by STR, they take in account the other techniques. They take in account the mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome, okay? This gives us a lot of more possibility to develop the auto search in CODIS better than usual the normal search, okay? Well, there is an example related that a single report of the disappearance of her brother in Cordoba in 2004 in Spain. And we have an identified course that appears in Ibiza, okay, in 2016. With the normal search, with the normal auto search, with STR in low, okay, during 3 years, CODIS not offer us the compatibility, okay? In the moment that we started working in 2019 with the pedigree manager, in the first auto search that we developed with this kind of module, the pedigree tree, we have the compatibility, okay? And finally, we have the possibility to confirm the identification in order to use another samples that we can determine the real compatibility between these two sisters, okay? Well, another important evolution for us is related with the possibility of developing the familiar search that Cristina have explained to you. In Spain, we have two important cases that it was important for us. The first of all, when we have a woman who has an abortion or a living child as a result of sexual assault, okay? Until the implementation of the pedagogy, we couldn't develop a properly auto-search in this case of cases, okay? And in the other side, we have the unidentified body of baby that appears in a garbage dump, no? It's so much difficult for us to develop in a normal way the auto-search related with these two specific cases, okay? And is what necessary to carry out a manual search configuration to each particular case. Sign of category for this kind of situation has not been established, okay? What happened in this case? In this case, the only problem that we have is judicial, because we need previously to develop this kind of auto search, the corresponding judicial authorization that is well necessary to carry out, because the legislation of Spain not allow this type of search in a database with the mandatory authorization by a judicial court, okay? Well, an example that is happening the first time that we develop this kind of auto search. In the year 2019, a woman reported a sexual assault suffered in 2018, and the result of which she became pregnant was born, okay? As you can see here in the screen, we prepare two different familiar searches. The first of all, we create a pedigree tree with the mother or with the child. And in the auto search or familiar search with this module, we find only one candidate with a young pedigree likelihood ratio very high, as you can see here on the screen. And in the same time, we develop the auto search, the pedigree tree with only with the girl, that's what born. And obviously in this case, CODIS offer different candidates, but the candidate with the higher joint pedigree likelihood ratio was the same that offering the auto search normally use the pedigree with the mother and with the child. No? This was a positive control in order to determine that the tool of familiar search is operating properly, and we can use in a normal way like this moment in 2009 when we start the operative working with this kind of auto search. Well, something that we like to share with you is related with the Y chromosome, okay? During this year, we have begun carry out here in Spain a search use only the Y chromosome haplotype, because right now we have more than 5,000 profiles stored with at least 16 Y markers, okay? As you know, it's quite common to find the absence of autosomal result in sexual assault, and where there is penetration in the sexual assault of a sexual abuse. And in the Y chromosome haplotype might be essential element to advance in the investigation of this kind of crimes, because it's difficult to find the STRs, but it's easy to find the Y chromosome in this case of cases, okay? It's also be important in the case of mixture, because different times the mixture are very difficult to evaluate, and the Y chromosome give up the possibility to determine what is the number of male that contribute in this mixture, first of all. And of course, it's important for us for advancing in the investigation of this kind of crime, okay? Well, there is a screen of the actual situation of the DNA database in Spain related with auto search using Y chromosome. And we have here two positive results that we use right now in the court in order to determine the person responsible of this kind of crime. Of these cases that is happening in the familiar search, we need previously to communicate to the court the possibility to develop this kind of auto search, and we need to have the authorization of the court in order to develop this kind of auto search. Right, this is a connotation of familiar search. No? We can find the male responsible of this crime of another member of the relative families related with this man, as you know. Okay. Well, I want to explain other benefits, although Christina have introduced some information related with that. And one of these is related with the Schengen Treaty in Europe in 1995. That give us the possibility of freedom of movement of material, capital, and people, which is something very beneficial for the state of the European Union. But what is the something that is wrong for us? It does give the possibility of freedom movement to the criminal that is taking in account of the organized crime groups that gave them allowed to move freely across the different borders for the commission of criminal acts, okay? In this situation, was necessary the creation in Europe, the Prüm Territory in the year 2005, which allows all the European countries the exchange of the genetic profiles in real time for the clarification of criminal acts and the list of crimes that are unsolved to combat the organized crime, the terrorists, and the illegal immigration. For this reason, every country must determine the specimen category to be exchanged, corresponding to their genetic profiles, and they must be divided into person, the reference samples, and in stain, the profile pending clarification that we can to share with all the European countries. One of the important things is that CODIS give us the possibility to exchange quickly, efficiently, and with the only need to generate public and private certificates that serve us in all countries that can communicate without any problem. As Christina said, not all the European countries have CODIS, but a high quantity of that, we use this kind of software. Christina said a lot of things: Spain, Portugal, Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, Lithuania, Estonia. Well, a lot of countries use this software, and it's very easy to connect to each other, but not only to CODIS countries. With another software, it's very easy to connect. You see this software, and it's working in real time, and it's working very, very fast, okay? Well, I would like to show you what is the result that we have during the last year related with the exchange of genetic profile history. Right now, Spain is operational with 23 European countries in real time. We only to push a button in CODIS, you send the genetic profile to the different countries, and you have an answer in real time related with all the genetic profiles that you have sent to the different countries. For example, during the last year, Spain have the possibility to clarify more than 1,000 crimes, and Spain give the possibility to the other European countries to clarify more than 1,000 crimes in the same way, okay? We have linked 457 crimes. We know that it's the same person, although we don't know that what is the name of this person, but we have linked these genetic profiles, they link these crimes, and different countries have the possibility or want to share the identified human remains. Spain is one of them, and with the exchange of the human remains in the Europe Territory Prüm, we have the possibility to identify 4 persons, okay? Well, another important benefit that I would like to show you for finish is related that CODIS not only, and the exchange of genetic profiles improved, not only give us the possibility to identify crimes. This is a real cases where we have the possibility to see what is the movement of a criminal person, like a GPS, in order to know in what moment, in what different country, what kind of crime, and finally what arrested in Spain, in Malaga. But this exchange of genetic profiles give us the possibility to obtain more information, not only to clarify the different crimes. We need to know what is the modus operandi, what is the other person in which we have connected in this kind of crime. Inside Prüm, not only exchange the genetic profile, we exchange the fingerprints, and in a very short period of time, we are going to share the familiar recognition. And if you mix all this information, you have a lot of important information for the police unit in order that they can not only identify the criminals, they can use this information like, I don't know how to use the name, is forensic intelligence, okay? I think it's the proper word. Forensic intelligence, not only for clarify the crimes, is important for the unit investigation, okay? And for example, this is a real cases that this happened in the Europe. I think that you know this group is called Pig Panther, a Serbian paramilitary group that was dedicated to committing crimes in exclusive jewelry stores and making a significant profit in the crimes. And with the genetic exchange within the Prüm Territory, we were able to establish the relationship of the different criminals in various crimes committed throughout Europe. And once again, the utility of the genetic database is shown not only to clarify crimes, but also for the development or useful forensic intelligence in for investigation police units. Okay, this is right now the possibility that we offer the share of DNA profiles, the share of the different crime that is committed in all Europe, and obviously I think that we have a lot of possibility to increase this possibility if we have more person, if we have a better software in order to process this kind of information. But right now in Europe is working in the next prune therapy, it's called 2 prune therapy, and is going to increase not only the possibility to exchange the genetic profiles. As I told you, we are going to introduce the facial recognition in this kind of chain and give us a lot of possibility in order to be more efficiency and to work more properly for the society that we serve, and to be more efficiency in order to find the different criminals that have been collated with this kind of crime. And now, yes, is the final. Okay, that's all, my friends. Well, for me, it's been a real pleasure to give you the presentation. I don't know if you have any kind of question. Sorry for my regular English, but we usually don't practice so much here in Spain. And well, if you have any question, I am at your disposal in order to try to resolve that.
Thank you, Chief Inspector Reyes. That was great. Very good presentation, especially on all the sharing of the databases, both internally and externally there in the EU, and also within your 6 different law enforcement agencies. We do have a couple of questions, and let's see if we can get to those. So let's see, we will start with, in Spain, do they promote or encourage citizens to donate their sample DNA and keep the DNA profile in the national database?
No, obviously that this happened in all the countries. We have a legislation that did start in 2007, and we have the possibility to collect the DNA sample from a person that is being collected with a crime. The minor crime that you have the possibility to take DNA samples is for burglary, and the other important crime, obviously, but it's not normally that the person donate the sample in order to introduce in the DNA database, although the possibility exists, no? You have the possibility to do that, but usually the person only donate in a mandatory situation when they have arrested for the police, okay?
Very good. So we had another question come in from Rehana. May I know your opinion about collecting DNA database data from babies? Does this have any implication towards ethics and human rights?
Okay, for babies, we only take the genetic profile of the babies in the case that we have a corpse, okay? If we have a person, a baby that we find in a babs, or that is have suffered a homicide, it's only the only case when we take this sample in order to determine if the relative, her father and mother, had been arrested previously, and we have the DNA database of the person, the genetic profile of the person stored in the DNA database. In the normal situation, if you, for example, want to identify in a civil situation your father, you have to require to a different institution in order to do this kind of search, okay? Only in the national database of Spain related to criminal acts, we only do that in the case that we have a crime, or in the case that we have a corpse. You identify body, you identify corpse, okay?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then we're gonna go ahead and throw a question that was actually for Christina out to you and see if you can. You did some of your presentation on some familial matching. So the question is from Fatima: Have you how do you go after familial matches, and do you have to calculate the PI, and if yes, how much is the PI required to report a match?
Okay, well, in the family matches, we develop an alloy ratio, we can use whatever software are available. We in Spain have familiar, the same use of Christina in Sweden. And we have different possibilities. Usually in Spain, give a recommendation to the different laboratories in order to use 4 or 5 software. And obviously, we use the international recommendation of the International Society of Forensic Youth in order to give a match or to give a compatibility related with the familiar match, okay? The most important thing for us is when we go with an expert report to a court is because we have the security that this match is properly, that we have the minimum requirements in order to assure it that this person is compatible in this kind of familiar search. Okay.
Yeah, very good. And then we just had a couple new questions come in from Evie. Are the missing persons identified also cases of illegal immigrants crossing from Africa to Canary Islands or other borders of Spain?
Okay, Evie, it's a very good question. Obviously, all the unidentified bodies, all the unidentified human remains that we find in the borders, in the coast of Spain, are introduced in the genetic profiles of COIs here in Spain. What is the problem? The problem is that we usually don't have the relatives. We don't have the genetic profiles of the person that meets the different person that far away to try to obtain a better life in Europe. And we have a lot of unidentified bodies, a lot of unidentified human remains in the DNA database that we couldn't clarify because the reason is that we don't have the genetic profiles of the relatives, of the familiar. They are for Africa, for different parts that they have no easy to communicate, don't easy to obtain the genetic profile in order to search in the DNA database of Spain. But usually Spain is open to connect with another institutions, international institutions, like the Institution of Commission of Missing Persons or the Committee of Red Cross, in order that if they send us these genetic profiles of the family circles, we can search in the DNA database in order to identify this human person that we find in the coast of Spain.
Okay, and the this is kind of a follow-up question.
Yeah, I think you just answered that question. Yeah, the international, I think, sharing, right?
Yeah, the question is, are the Spain police databases also have exchange or collaborations between ICMP and ICRC, Argentine missing person data DNA reports?
Well, there is one of the important problem. We don't have any normal collaboration with them, okay? We usually use Interpol. Interpol is the tool that we use right now in order to receive the different genetic profiles related with the person that try to find unidentified person or missing person. They don't know where they are. And we usually receive this kind of genetic profile from Interpol. We don't have right now a collaboration with the International Commission on Missing Persons or with International Committee of Red Cross, but it will be very productive, will be very useful if we can do that. The problem is the laboratories that usually analyze these familiar circles, we need to have the possibility to check if they have the standardization of the laboratories in order that the genetic profile have the enough quality in order to be sure that a compatibility is, we have a likelihood ratio level in order to determine that this person is compatible with the unidentified human remains or with the unidentified corpse. Okay.
Okay, great.
Right. I had one question, Ed, if there are no other questions.
Sure, okay. Go ahead.
You and both Christina spoke about sharing of DNA, active DNA sharing, real-time DNA sharing with other countries in European Union. What I wanted to check was that how does this happen between, like you mentioned that between the within the European Union, there is free movement of people. So I understand how criminals can go across borders very easily. But are there no privacy concerns in sharing data of citizens of one country, for example, Spain, sharing the data of their citizen with another country?
No, obviously, in Europe, all the countries are over the legislation and the regulation of Europe. And obviously, there is a lot with the data protection, okay? But all the legislation usually give us the possibility to share the information that we collect related with crime in order to share with another countries. We have the data protection of Europe. Every country is developing the data protection in this situation, and we establish in the law this possibility. All the people arrested, all the people vinculated with a crime have the possibility, and they couldn't do nothing, that we share this information with the other countries, because all of us is inside the rules, the legislation of Europe. This is something good, but we have something bad. The bad is for the bad people. I think it's adequate to threat this kind of people in this state. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, welcome.
Good question, Sarah. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions that we have. I'm not seeing any new ones. So thank you very much for being with us today, Chief Inspector Reyes. And we can let you go as we move on here. So we'll now move on to our next speaker, Anna Davey, who is not able to be here with us today, but was kind enough to share her incredible forensic DNA knowledge with us via recording. I will just provide a quick introduction and then we can roll right into her presentation. Since it's a recorded session, please enter any questions you may have as we have been in the question and answer box. And then we will, if we can, answer them. Otherwise, we will send them to Anna and get an answer for you later. Thank you. And then Anna Davey is an expert forensic medical biologist, and she started as a DNA scientist when the forensic DNA was first introduced in Australia in 1988. She is now the director of the Forensic Foundation International, which she founded in 2008. So without any further delay, here is Director Davey talking about the importance of quality assurance and standardization.
Hello, my name's Anna Davey, and I'm presenting this seminar, or this part of the seminar, a week earlier than you're listening to it. Unfortunately, I'm not available when you're all sitting, waiting and listening to this seminar. I'll actually be on a plane, probably above Thailand, as you're listening to this. So I apologize for that, and I apologize for the fact that because it's going to be recorded, it can't be as interactive as I would really like it to be. However, both at the beginning of my presentation and at the end of my presentation, I've given you my email details. So please feel free to contact me if you've got any questions or you'd like to discuss any of the issues that I'm going to be talking about today in more detail. I have a few introductory slides which tell you a little bit about myself and also Forensic Foundations International, just to put it in context. So what I'll do now is share my screen, and I'll come back and you'll be able to see me again at the end of this presentation. So just bear with me while I share my screen. Okay, so I've been asked to make this presentation for a seminar at DNAforAsia, and particularly focus on the importance of quality assurance and standardization as it relates to DNA databases. As you can see, I've got on this first slide my contact details. I am currently the Director of Forensic Foundations International, and you can see my email address there, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have or discuss any issues that come out of this presentation. Also, for your information, there's our website address. Right. As I said, I come from Australia. I come from Melbourne. Melbourne is the capital of the state of Victoria, which is down here. Hopefully you can see my cursor. And I believe you're mainly in Thailand, but there's also other members from other parts of Southeast Asia. I do quite a bit of work in Southeast Asia. So hopefully our paths will cross at some stage in person rather than just virtually. So who is Forensic Foundations? Who are we? We were established in 2008 as a support for the forensic science community and law enforcement and the justice system, as you'll see a little bit later. We are currently certified to ISO 9001 and accredited to ISO 17043, which is the standard required for proficiency test providers. So we provide proficiency tests. There are 4 permanent members of staff, and we have over 20 discipline-specific experts. Obviously, the 4 permanent members of staff can't know everything about all the different aspects of forensic science and medicine and the law. And so we bring in discipline-specific experts for particular projects and activities. And we walk the talk. This presentation is on quality management, quality assurance. We walk the talk. We practice what we preach. As I said, we're accredited, we're certified. So the Forensic Foundation's quality policy is right up front of everything we do. The management and staff, all of us, are committed to and focused on supporting the justice system as a whole. We see it as a whole. Yes, there are component parts, but there are numerous organisations within that whole. And we're also focused on the individuals as well as organisations. So supporting the justice system as a whole and individuals involved within the system through the provision of flexible and fit-for-purpose forensic training, quality management, proficiency testing. As I said, we comply with 17043 and consultancy services. And we're committed to satisfying all the applicable requirements, legal and quality management wise, and to continually improving the risk management and quality management systems. So what do we actually do? We run a broad range of programs. Quality management programs are relevant to this presentation. So I've mentioned the proficiency tests and interlab collaborative trials that we run. We are currently the only international auditors for ISO 18385, which is the standard which is required for manufacturers of DNA consumables. So those scientists who are listening to this, who have used kits from a supplier for the DNA profiling, have a look on the box and in the paperwork, and if they are ISO 18385 certified, then Forensic Foundations was responsible for that certification. We're also the only auditors for standalone AS 5388, which is a forensic science standard, which I'll talk about later. We also audit 17025 in preparation for accreditation. So if an organisation wants to apply for accreditation through one of the accreditation bodies, we can come in earlier and undertake a audit before the auditing body comes in, the accreditation body comes in, and they can basically have a dry run and see how they go. We also prepare validation sample sets. So if someone, again in a laboratory, is introducing a new instrument or introducing a new kit or technique, and this isn't just for DNA, it's the wide range of forensic science samples, we can actually provide validation sample sets. We're also involved in a number of training programs, both in Australia and overseas, We have a suite of expert evidence programs, expert witness training programs for the witnesses who give evidence in court. We do training in aspects of quality management, in DNA and statistics, and we can facilitate other training where we bring in other trainers. We're also responsible for quite a number of consulting activities. Here I've just mentioned a few of them. I spent 3 months in Myanmar doing DNA statistics. That was before the coup in 2019. We have been working with Thermo Fisher on a project in Asia, preparing a lab for ISO 17025 accreditation. We've done some work, quite a bit of work with the Australian Defence Force, and I'm currently involved in casework. Perhaps I should mention that I am the director of Forensic Foundations, but I'm also a forensic molecular biologist. So I was a DNA scientist. I started with DNA, forensic DNA in 1988, when it was first introduced in Australia. So I was in the team that introduced DNA profiling, and I've been actively involved ever since. So I've got a bit of experience under my belt. As far as Forensic Foundations is concerned, and there's a reason why we're called Forensic Foundations or Forensic Foundations International, and that is because if you think about these two images, on the left-hand side, you've got a tree, and you'll all be aware that the larger the tree, the greater the root structure needs to be to support that tree. The foundations of the tree is the root structure. Again, with buildings, the image on the right-hand side, the larger the building, the more solid you want it to be, the deeper and the stronger the foundations need to be. So Forensic Foundations believes in building evidence on strong foundations. And one of those strong foundations, is a number of them, but one of them relates to a robust quality management system. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, as I said, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The title I was asked to speak on was the importance of quality assurance and standardization, as I said, as it relates to DNA databases. I'm going to divide this presentation into two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about quality assurance and quality management. And in the second part, I'm going to talk about standardization. They're very related and they overlap, but I'm going to talk about them separately. So to start with, I'll talk about quality assurance, which the way I look at it is a component of quality management. So quality management, what on earth is quality management? What is the point of quality management? What I'm hoping to do now is break it down so that you can see how it relates to producing the information that will be loaded onto a DNA database, and also how that DNA database actually operates, and what is required to ensure that you get what you want out of that database. Okay. So quality management is a huge area, and we could talk about quality management all week. In fact, I've run for another client, which I forgot to mention before, I ran a 3-month, was it 3 months? At least it was 2 months, workshop on quality management and lab management. So, you know, we can talk about it for a long time, but I promise I won't do today. All right. Quality assurance is a component of a quality management system. So let's talk about what is quality management. And quality management, as you'll all be aware, doesn't just relate to scientific work. It relates to all sorts of activities. And so all organizations, whatever they do, whatever they produce, whatever their activities are, should have a robust quality management system. So A quality management system focuses on the quality of the final product or service. So it could be a DNA profile. It could be some other form of forensic science result. It could be a food product. It could be a service that is provided to a customer. So what we're doing is looking at optimizing the quality of the final product. On our way to doing that, what we're doing is hoping and planning and actively working to prevent problems from occurring. Problems will occur. We don't live in an ideal world. There will be problems, but let's reduce the number of problems and the severity of the problems. As I said, we don't live in an ideal world. Problems will occur. How are we going to detect the problems? And then how are we going to resolve them? Okay, so they're the first three pillars, I guess, of a robust quality management system. As you can see from those first 3 dot points, a quality management program is both proactive and reactive. We're thinking ahead. We're trying to imagine what could go wrong. Sometimes we need to brainstorm it, but try and work out how we can prevent issues arising. But when they do arise, and they will arise, we need to be reactive and deal with them appropriately, and hopefully prevent them happening again. A quality management system needs to be tailored. Every organization is going to be different. And so you can't have one quality management system that suits all organizations. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but each organization needs to work out its own quality management program. And that quality management program needs to be fit for purpose. What is the organization trying to achieve? What are their aims? What are their goals? And how are we going to get there? Okay. So what quality management is not? So in the slide previously, we talked about what quality management is. In this slide, we're going to be talking about what quality management is not. It's not one size that fits all system. As I said in the previous slide, it's tailored. It's got to be fit for purpose. One size doesn't fit all. And it is not a management system designed to meet a standard, whether that's 17025 or an accreditation system. It's designed to meet the need or the needs of the organization. And standards and accreditations are tools that we use within a quality management system. They're not the be-all and the end-all. And I think in a lot of places that's actually been flipped over. And when people are talking about developing a quality management system, they start with saying, we have to follow the standard, or we have to do this for accreditation. That's not where I come from. What I'm trying to do is say, you need to work out what you need and use the standards and the tools, the standards and the accreditation as tools to assist you to get there. Because a lot of people have put a lot of thought into the standards and the accreditation requirements, and so they can be used to help you develop your own quality management system. I hope that makes sense, and that's often an area where there's a lot of discussion when I'm doing this live. It needs to be fit for purpose. You don't want to put a square peg in a round hole. And the quality and the quality management system need to work for you. You do not work for the quality management system. The quality management system needs to work for you and help you and assist you to do the work that you are actually undertaking. A quality management system also involves everyone, from the CEO, the director, the president, to the most lowly paid person in the organization. It involves absolutely everyone, because a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And if everybody is not involved, if everybody doesn't understand what's going on and why this is so important, then that's when things are not done correctly, because they don't understand why. They don't understand the importance of it. The other thing I want to say is when you're developing a quality management system, it requires a lot of input in terms of commitment by people and time and resources, and it will not happen overnight. I know some organizations think that they're going to apply for accreditation and they haven't got a quality management system in place, and they think, oh, they'll just quickly put one together. It takes time, particularly if you want a decent one and if you want it to be fit for purpose. All right. And I've said these two things before, but as you can probably gather, I think they're very important. So I'm repeating them. A quality management system must be fit for purpose. The quality management system of one organization is not likely to fit that of another organization. And the implementation of the quality management system must involve people from all levels of an organization. Okay. All right, so that's enough of the sort of the background and where I'm coming from in terms of quality management, right? Now, the product we're talking about here, because we're talking about DNA databases, the product we're talking about from the lab point of view is the DNA profile that you're producing, right? From the DNA database point of view, the product you're producing is the result of a search. Whether it's a match or a non-match, that's the product. And so what we're trying to do is actually produce the best possible product that we can do. Okay. So let's look at what are the components of a quality management system. I believe, and again, this is the way I understand a quality management system, the way I teach a quality management system, is 5 components. And I'm going to go into each of these in a little bit more detail as we go through. So the first one are the documented policies and procedures, methods, etc., which direct the way in which all the work is undertaken. And I'm talking about all the work. I'm not just talking about the technical or analytical work. I'm talking about all of the work that is undertaken by the organization, because it all feeds in to the final result in one way or another, directly or indirectly. All right. Procurement, for instance, how you buy things, your environmental conditions in terms of the laboratory, the security of the environment, the health and welfare of the staff, the training of the staff, etc. So it's not just the analytical side of things. Quality assurance, that's that term that I said is a component of quality management. Quality assurance are methods that we put in place of ensuring that work practices conform with the documented policies, procedures, and methods that we talked about in point 1. It's no point having documented policies, procedures, and methods, going to the trouble of developing them if no one follows them, all right? So what we need to do is ensure that everyone is following the work practices that have been laid out in the documents, and whether they be policies, procedures, or methods. The third aspect is quality control, and this is broken up into 2 different components. The first one, methods to ensure, I'm sorry about this, methods to ensure that methods and procedures are valid, but you know what I mean. what's the point of documenting something, making sure people actually do it, if it's not valid, if it's not going to work, if it doesn't give the right results? It doesn't matter how well you've documented it or how well somebody else has followed those procedures. There's no point if it's not valid. The second part is methods to ensure the quality of each member's work is being maintained. All right, so are they correctly trained? Are they competent? Are they proficient? Are they continually being challenged and their skills updated? The fourth one is, again, proactive and reactive. It's diagnostic, corrective and preventative action programs. Methods by which the cause of a deviation, a problem, an issue from the expected may be anticipated in terms of preventative actions, or if they do occur, can be determined and remedied. Diagnostic and corrective. Diagnostic, why did it happen? What's the root cause of why it happened? Not the simplistic, oh, well, this wasn't done because someone forgot to do something. Why did they forget to do something? What else is going on? Is it that the work instructions are not particularly clear? Is it that they had too much to do at the time? Was it because the environment was suboptimal? Whatever it happens to be. Why did it happen? Get to the root cause and then see what you can do to fix it and prevent it happening again. And then, of course, there's continuous improvement programs, a continuous review of all of the things we've talked about above, to ensure that all work is undertaken at the most efficient and effective manner and to the highest standards. So what's the next thing that's happening in terms of the research? Where could we be going? How can we improve things? Is there another set of loci we should be looking at? Is there a different instrument? Can we do something differently to improve what we're actually producing? So that's a continuous improvement program. So just breaking down these in a little bit more detail. As I said, everything needs to be written down. I remember reading somewhere, and I haven't been able to find the quote since, but if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. All right? Write things down. You think you're going to remember things, you think things are obvious, but they won't be obvious. What's obvious to you may not be obvious to somebody else. So your policies, your organizational policies, the procedures, the methods, the analytical techniques, everything that talks about the way in which the work is undertaken needs to be documented. It needs to be clear, and it needs to be followed. Talking about following, that leads us to the second point, quality assurance. Methods of ensuring that the work practices, what people are actually doing, whether we're talking about on the bench doing the DNA extractions, the amplifications, whether it's sitting at a computer doing the interpretation or the DNA database searching, or sitting at desks writing reports, but all those work practices conform with the documented policies, procedures, and methods. Some examples of that are internal, external audits. So going back over a work area, following a case from beginning to end, or a technique from beginning to end, actually undertaking the audits on a regular basis to ensure that everything is being done correctly. And then if you find an issue, doing something about it. That can be done internally. You can train up your own internal auditors, and they can do the audits. You could also get people in to do external audits, so where they're independent of the actual workplace. Accreditation by an accreditation body, and the one that would probably be used in your work environment is NAAB, which is based in the States, America. they're external audits, and they provide accreditation. So accreditation is a form of external audit, but you can get other people to do external audits. They just won't be accredited, or you won't get accreditation as a result of it. A management review. A management review is from the top. It is the management of the organization, reviewing what is actually occurring in the organization. So they may review all sorts of data, and how often you do it is up to the organization, but it means that management is getting into the nitty-gritty to actually see what's going on. Peer review of casework. So looking at both the technical and the administrative reviews of the work that's being undertaken. The use of controlled documentation. So controlled documentation is a term that's used that ensures that important documents are controlled in some way. So for instance, I'll give you an example. You may have a work instruction, whether you call it a method or work instruction or procedure for DNA extraction, okay? And someone's written it up, it's a beautiful document, everybody's following it, and that's fine, right? Then what happens is a new kit becomes available, or you get a new instrument, right? And so you've got to change that document. What you need to ensure is that all of the old copies of the document are withdrawn and the new document replaces it, and everybody's made aware that there's a new document. All right? You don't want people using old documents. So the use of controlled documentation ensures that people are conforming with the current policies, procedures, and methods, not one that they've had stashed in their top drawer. Some aspects of proficiency testing help you ensure that the work practices conform with documented policies, and also authorization. Authorization usually comes at the end of a training period where there's an assessment component and the individuals are authorized to conduct casework, conduct certain tests, undertake DNA database searches, whatever it happens to be. All right. Then we've got quality control. All right. So what we need to do is ensure that those methods and procedures are valid. There's no point doing something if it's not valid. How do we do that? Okay. Well, the first one is the use of standards. So within DNA, we have things like the allelic ladder. We have the size standards. So we know that the results can be compared to those. And if there's an issue with the standards, we know there's probably going to be an issue with the evidentiary samples that we're examining. The use of controls. So again, in DNA, we're talking about positive controls and negative controls. We expect the positive control to give us the result we expect, and we expect the negative control to give us no result. And if they don't, then there's an issue. Calibration and maintenance of equipment is essential to ensure that we get the right result. More aspects of the proficiency testing and interlab collaborative trials, particularly where you do the interlab comparisons component of the proficiency tests, and validation and verification, including the sampling method you're using. I'll talk a little bit more about validation and verification later. The second part of quality control are methods to ensure the quality of each member's work is being maintained. Okay, so we need a formalized training program, so we know that people are being trained properly and all the information that they need is being covered. Authorization to perform casework, and testimony and scene monitoring. So those people who give evidence in court, those people who attend scenes and collect samples from the scene, that's also an essential part of the work that's being produced and the product that's being produced. So that needs to be checked as well. We've talked a bit about diagnostic, corrective and preventative actions, so I won't go into that anymore. And we've talked about continuous improvement, always looking about how we can improve the way in which we do things, whether it's in a more efficient way, a quicker way, we do more with less, or a more effective manner, whatever it is, but to the highest scientific standards. So basically, the 5 components of a quality management system are outlined here. I'm often asked, particularly when people are setting up, from at the beginning, well, what should we focus on first? What's the most important bit that we should actually be doing? Well, I can't answer that question. Each bit is equally important. What order you do things in, how you do it is up to you. We can talk about it, but it's up to you. However, all of the areas have to be covered to the same degree. And I go back to that, a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And if you've got a weak link in there, the whole thing's going to fall over. Now, I hear you saying or thinking, but what about standards? What about ISO 17025? What about, accreditation? Where does all that fit in? All right. Remember what I said. Standards and accreditation are tools in a quality management system. The standards have been developed over a long period of time. They've been revised. There's been a lot of people putting a lot of work into the standards. As far as accreditation is concerned, that's an assessment against a standard. And if you meet the requirements of the standard, then you can be granted accreditation. But they are tools in the quality management system. As I said, lots of people put lots of time and effort into them, so they're a very good guideline, but they are tools. They are not the penultimate, all right? So what's a standard? Well, there's ISO, which is the International Standards Organization, has a definition of a standard, which, to be perfectly honest, I don't really understand. It says it's a document established by consensus and approved by a recognized body that provides for common and repeated use, rules, guidelines for activities or their results aimed at the achievement of the optimum degree of order in a given context. Well, that doesn't really help me very much. It's a lot of very good words, but it doesn't really help me very much. Standards Australia, which is the Australian standards body, has a different definition, which I think is a little bit more helpful. They say that standards are published documents setting out specifications and procedures designed to ensure products, services, and systems are safe, reliable, and consistently perform in the way they are intended to. They establish a common language which defines quality and safety criteria. So I think that's a little bit more practical application or definition, I should say. I mentioned ISO, the International Organization of Standardization. Although it's known as ISO, I haven't yet worked out why the name of the organization is International Organization of Standardization, but the letters are ISO, which is the other way around. I did think because they were originally based in Switzerland, that maybe it was French, but it's not. I've spoken to some French people. So it doesn't really matter. It's just something that I find interesting and I'd love to get to the bottom of. All right. So who is ISO? Who's the group? What is this group that actually develops these standards? All right. Now, it's an independent, non-governmental international organization with a membership of 165 national standards bodies. So each country has well, not each country, you'll see there's a couple of countries on this map below that are not members, they're correspondent members, but most of the countries in the world are included, that represent the country's interests at ISO. Okay, the way in which a standard is actually formed or developed is through a technical committee or one of the subcommittees, which has representatives, again, from the countries, and draft documents are produced, meetings are held, they're discussed, they're changed, they're edited, they're redrafted. They then have another meeting, and this can go on for quite some time. And I'm talking about a number of years before a standard is actually finally published. All right. But they have managed to publish over 25,000, almost 24,000 standards across a very wide range of areas of interest, of which science, forensic science, is only a very small component. All right. Talking about which, there is a technical committee for forensic sciences. It's ISO Technical Committee 272. And this map again shows the countries which are members of that committee and which are corresponding members or observing members. So you can see Thailand's in here, so as a corresponding member. At the moment, the chair of the committee and the secretariat of the committee is based in Australia, all right, until I think the end of this year. All right. So this is a technical committee for forensic sciences within ISO. All right. So what are standards? Standards are minimum requirements. They are a consensus document. As I said, there's an original draft that's sent back to the various countries' standards bodies. They make comment, they send it back, those comments are collated, the changes are made, the standard is redrafted, it goes out again, comes back again, until everybody's happy with it. So it's a consensus document. Being a consensus document, it outlines minimum requirements. When you think about all the countries that are involved, it's the minimum requirements. It's not best practice. Right. They allow and facilitate the exchange of information between states and nations, because people know that if something's done and it's done according to a particular standard, they have an expectation of what they can expect. They can be used as the basis of training. They can be used as the basis of testing, including proficiency testing. And they can be adopted as the basis of a quality management system with or without external accreditation. So you could have a very robust quality management system without external accreditation. Okay. The standards provide the skeleton. As I say, they are the minimum requirements. Jurisdictional methods and procedures add the flesh and the character to the minimum requirements, which is why every organization's quality management system will be different from any others, because the flesh, those methods and procedures which add to the flesh and the character, will be different from one organization to another, although the underlying skeleton will be the same. So when we're talking about standards of interest, there's a number. You'd probably all be familiar with ISO 17025. That's the general requirements for the competence of testing and calibration laboratories. Now, that's a very general standard. It's the one that is most widely used in the forensic science community across the world. But it is a general requirement for all types of testing and calibration laboratories, whether they be food testing, whether they're testing concrete, whether they're doing calibration of fuel pumps or weighing machines, whatever. This is the standard which is applied. Now, if you want to apply that to forensic science, there are documents available, both from NAB, which is the accreditation body from the States, and also NATA, which is the accreditation body in Australia, which explain how this standard can actually be applied to forensic science. And they basically, I won't say translate, that's not the right word, but they actually explain how particular requirements of 17025 can be applied in forensic science. So they're really worthwhile getting hold of. And if people want to know how to get hold of them, they can just contact me, or they can do a Google search. The other thing, because they're very, very general, the other thing that's been talked about for many years in the forensic science community is something that's more specific to forensic science. And so Australia and the Australian Standards Body have actually developed a number of forensic specific standards, which you'll see here. They're AS for Australian Standards 5388, and there's actually 4 of them. Okay. ISO, I can actually go back to this next slide. What am I doing? Here we go. So these are the standards. We'll talk about this one in a minute. This one here, ISO 53881. These are the Australian standards. So ISO is in the process of actually converting these Australian standards into ISO standards. Now, while they did that, they decided that they needed an extra one, which was terms and definitions. That's been published and is available for purchase. This one is also being published and is available for purchase. These last 3, unfortunately, COVID got in the way. They should have been finished up last year, the year before, but because they weren't able to have the international meetings, things all got put on hold. But these will be coming out hopefully at the end of this year. All right. So they may be of interest to some of the people listening to this presentation. The other standard, which has been published specifically for forensic science, is this 18385 one, which I mentioned before, minimizing the risk of human DNA contamination in products used to collect, store, and analyze biological material for forensic purposes. So that's the one the manufacturers actually have to apply to be certified against. And again, it started off as an Australian standard and then turned into an ISO standard. So there are another set of other standards which may be of interest to people listening to this presentation. So I'm just going to quickly mention these. OSAC, Organisation of Scientific Area Committees for Forensic Science, is based in the States, and they have working groups in all of these areas that I'm pointing to now. I hope you can see my pointer. And they are developing standards specifically for those areas, and also flow charts. Some of them are really good. They explain how you get from one point to another in an analytical process and all the decision points along the way. They're very, very useful. Obviously, the ones that we're interested in here are the ones in the biological data interpretation reporting and the biological methods to actually get there. Okay. The other set of standards which are available on the website, I mean, those, I should say, all of these are available free of charge on the website. These ones here are ENSFI, the European Network of Forensic Science Institutes, have a number of really good, this isn't all of them, this is just a subsection that would fit on one slide. So have a look for those too. All right. Just talking about standards, the Australian standards I was talking to and the ISO standards which are being developed basically cover the whole forensic science process from crime scene attendance through evidence submission, analysis of the evidence, identification, and case resolution. So 17025 tends to maybe start about here and really sort of finishes about there. All right. All right. So I've talked an awful lot about the importance of quality management. So this is the process that we actually need to get a DNA profile that's reliable, robust, accurate, that we can put onto a DNA database. What I want to talk about now is why standardization is important and what standardization in this context actually refers to. I'm also conscious that I've been talking for 3/4 of an hour, and it's hard to concentrate for large periods of time. So what I'd actually like to do now is suggest that everybody take a deep breath, maybe stand up, have a bit of a wriggle, turn around, sit down, go and get a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, I'll give you a couple of minutes because, as I said, sitting listening to something for 3/4 of an hour is actually quite difficult. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, hopefully feeling a little bit less stiff, sitting still for so long. All right, so what I want to talk about now is standardization. So why do we need standardization? I just want you to think for a moment about a case that might come into a forensic science lab where you've got, in this case, a blood stain on a shirt, and there was an alleged assault. You've got a victim, you've got a couple of suspects. And so what we're looking for here is a direct comparison between the blood that's on the shirt or the t-shirt with the reference samples that relate specifically to this particular case. It's a direct comparison. You could also have a case where you have possibly a serial offender, and this person is leaving their biological material at the scenes. We won't go into what sort of biological material it is, doesn't really matter, but they're leaving their biological material. And so we don't have any suspects at the moment, but what we want to know is, could the biological material from one scene be related to, would it be the same as the biological material from another scene? And so again, we're doing a direct comparison, one evidentiary sample against another evidentiary sample. Also within a laboratory, that laboratory may have a DNA database. And so you're doing a comparison with the evidentiary profile, maybe it's the blood on the t-shirt, with the stored profiles from people, person profiles within the database. Could someone whose profile is already in the database be matched with the evidentiary profile? Again, you might want to do an evidentiary profile with other stored evidentiary profiles. It could be that it's not been recognized that it's the same person that's been involved, but you can actually do that by linking evidentiary profiles in the database. because it's being done within one organization, you are basically comparing same with same. The DNA profiles may have come from the same kits, most probably will have come from the same kits. You'll be using the same interpretation guidelines. So when you've validated or verified your kits, you will have determined what your interpretation guidelines are going to be. And an example of that would be your RFU thresholds. When are you going to call a peak an allele? What percentage difference would you expect in a heterozygote profile? All right. So these are your own interpretation guidelines, and they'd be used consistently. And what the laboratory has done what they've done is they've validated and they've verified their analytical testing, okay, within their organization, how it works for them. Now, this is where I said I'd mention the difference between validation and verification, because they get mixed up quite frequently. So validation, these definitions are out of ISO 9001. Okay, so let's think about validation to start with. Their definition, or the definition in 9001, is confirmation through the provision of objective evidence that the requirements for specific intended use or application have been fulfilled. Now, this can be done either by the vendor or by the laboratory or by another laboratory. If a procedure has been validated by another reputable organization, that validation can be adopted by a laboratory. The validation doesn't need to be completely repeated in a laboratory, okay? Because what we're talking about is the requirements for a specific intended use. Okay. What every laboratory has to do is verification, because you have to determine that the specific requirements have been fulfilled. That is the requirements in your laboratory. So you can take the validation information here, which is intended use, and then you verify it, all right, for your specific requirements. And the verification is not as large a project as a validation. If you can get validation information from a reputable organization, whether it be the vendor or another laboratory, and you can verify that, then that's what you need to do. If what you're doing hasn't been validated by anybody else, then you need to validate it. So if you want to change a particular step or requirement or procedure significantly, then you're going to have to validate it. But you only need to verify it if it's been done by somebody else. I hope that's clear. And again, this is where often there's lots of discussion and lots of questions when I'm doing this presentation live. So why do we need standardization? Well, we need the standardization when we're actually comparing results between laboratories or against a database external to that laboratory. So between laboratories, you could still do a direct comparison, a profile with a profile from another laboratory. So you could have a profile from an evidentiary sample, and you ask another laboratory, have you seen this profile? All right. This is case specific again. You're not going to be doing it on every profile. You're going to be doing it because you think this other laboratory may have a the offender, the profile, or may have seen it. right? You could also, so that's a direct comparison, you could also ask for database search. Okay, now that database search could be held by another laboratory, or it could be a combined database at the state level or the country level, or even the international level. Okay, and here we're looking at searching an evidentiary profile with stored person profiles and an evidentiary profile with other stored evidentiary profiles. Okay. But are we comparing same with same? Is everybody using the same kit? Is everybody using the same thermal cycler? Because there are differences. The annealing temperatures could vary. The effectiveness of the primers, the annealing of the primers, how the primers bind does vary. And I've seen it in proficiency tests where there's been a difference in the allelic, what an allele is called, depending on the software, the system that's used and the software that is used to interpret it. All right. So you've got to be very, very careful when you're comparing one system with another system. All right. Are people using the same interpretation guidelines? Some people are much more conservative than other people in terms of calling alleles. Some people are much more, well, let's put it this way. Different people interpret mixtures in different ways. Okay, if you want to search a single source profile, which has been obtained so we're not comparing same with same when we've got databases. All right. We want to ensure two things. We need to ensure that when the material is actually sent to be uploaded on the database, that it is in an acceptable form according to the guidelines, the standardized guidelines for acceptance onto the profile, onto the database, sorry. And you also need to ensure that the way in which the searching is actually undertaken, the searching algorithms actually use the standard searching. All right, that you can't. Everybody's got to search in the same way. Let's put it that way. Right. And I'm sure the previous speaker talked about that. All right. So, are we comparing same with same? If they're coming from different labs, if the data is coming from different laboratories, the short answer is no. Different laboratories have different systems. They use different kits, they use different instruments, they use different RFU thresholds. Okay, and this is where the quality management system comes in, right? Because what we need to do is we need to optimize the probability that any comparisons or matches, if you want to call it that, are valid, and to minimize the chance that true matches are missed. All right. So what can we do? Well, we need to ensure that the laboratories which are uploading DNA profiles to the DNA database have a robust quality management system, that the results that they're producing are the best quality results that they could possibly produce. All right. We need to have that quality management system externally assessed. Now, you may wish to do that through formal accreditation. In Australia, our national DNA database, people are not allowed to upload unless they actually are formally accredited. That's the decision that was made in Australia. Other countries, other organizations have to make their own decisions. But you do need some form of external verification, assessment of the quality management system, so you know you can rely on the results that are being uploaded to the DNA database. You also need to, and you can use things like interlaboratory collaborative trials. Not trails, trials. What an interlab collaborative trial will do is send the same samples to multiple labs. They will undertake the testing according to their methods and their procedures, and the results are sent back and they're collated. All right, that's usually done by a third party. Another way of doing this is through the provision of validation samples, sending validation samples out to laboratories and then comparing the results and making sure that all the labs are getting the same results. We're comparing apples with apples. And the other way of doing that is through proficiency testing. Okay. I just want to very quickly touch on the significance of a database match. This is again a question that often comes up when we're talking about DNA databases and how you can have what's known as advantageous matches. It's not the right word, but I've gone completely blank what the word is. Again, this is where it's useful to have an audience, because there might be somebody in the audience who could say, "Oh, you mean such and such," but you'll understand what I mean in a minute. When you are doing a direct match, you have an evidentiary stain, and you might be testing it with suspect A or suspect B or suspect C. So it's a one-to-one, it's a direct match. And that's, if you get a match, then you can work out your statistics of the significance of that match. All right. You've probably all heard about, what was the word? I almost had the right word. Reports in the scientific literature and unfortunately sometimes in the media about a database where you've actually got matches coming up, and they're saying, well, if you're getting a match in the database and the database has 450 individuals in it, well, obviously the frequency is 1 in 450. The reason for that is within a database search, if you're not searching for one sample, because of course you can still search for one sample in a database, but if you had a database and you said, search the database to see if there's any matches within the database, you're actually got a lot more matches in there because sample A in there is being compared with sample, where's B? B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So you actually got a lot more potential matches within that database. It's known as the birthday problem. I've actually finished a little bit earlier than the hour and a half which I was asked to present, but you probably that's probably quite good, because then you can go on to the next speaker. I want to leave you with this as my last, well, not actually my last slide, a few more slides later, but with databases, there's one really important maxim to remember, and that is garbage in, garbage out. The results you're going to get from any database is only as good as the information that goes into the database. So you need to ensure that what you actually put into the database is the optimum information that you can. And that's where quality management comes in so strongly. Okay, but it's a mechanism to ensure that you are producing the best possible results. Now is when I would normally stop for questions in an hour and a half presentation. It'd be about right, actually. I'd be finishing now, and then we'd have about 15 minutes discussion and questions from people. But unfortunately, we can't do that because this is recorded. What I'd like to do is, again, offer you my email address, which is here. I'm also planning to be at the Asian Forensic Science Network meeting in September, if any of you are likely to be there, and I'm more than happy to chat to you. And also, I'll be at the International Association of Forensic Sciences meeting in Australia in November. Speaking about which, I'm actually involved as one of the discipline coordinators. So I'm going to just flog this for a little while. This will be one of the largest meetings held in the Southern Hemisphere for a very long time. The last time IAFS was in Australia was in 1989 or 90, can't quite remember. We're expecting thousands of delegates. We've actually got 10 concurrent streams happening at the moment. It's going to be extremely busy. It's going to be a large meeting. Really worthwhile attending. And I hope to see you, or as many of you, either at the Asian Forensic Science Network meeting or at IAFS in Sydney, Australia. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'd say that it's lovely to meet you all. Unfortunately, I can't see you. You can see me. But I hope you've gained something from this presentation. You've probably gathered I'm pretty passionate about quality management, and I really believe that without a robust quality management system, we might as well all go home. So with that cheerful thought, I'll stop now. Maybe I'll catch up with some of you either online or face-to-face. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, that was a very informative presentation from Director Anna Davey. I think as was noted in the chat box, if you have any questions that you would like us to pass along to Director Davey, please feel free to send those to Saurabh's email. He's noted it in the chat box and also the Q&A box, and we will pass those along. So now I will pass it over to Saurabh for just a quick announcement that he'd like to make, and then I will wrap it up after that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you, everyone, for who have managed to stay on, and we hope that you found this program useful. I just wanted to remind you before we close that we have the Hit of the Year, DNA Hit of the Year program scheduled later this month during the HITS conference. So if you can see my screen, this is the website for Hit of the Year. Many of you would know about it. It's GTH DNA's flagship program in which we invite entries from all over the world. We showcase exciting cases, and we also we congratulate the members who could solve these cases using DNA investigative tools and databases. So it's going to be really interesting. We have a lot of Asian countries have participated, and they have been showcased on this program in the past. This year we have Malaysia, which is being featured. Please register if you haven't already. I will be posting the link in the chat, and we hope you can all be there and encourage us and help us grow this program further. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Saurabh, for that information. And we look forward to seeing your best cases for Hit of the Year. So finally, just a quick note that the next webinar in our DNA series will be entitled Emerging Technologies in Forensic DNA. Is decentralized DNA analysis the future? So stay tuned for that later this year. So that is all for our program today. Please join me with virtual claps if you feel so likely to do it. In thanking all of our guest speakers today, Dr. Christina Whedon, Chief Inspector Reyes, and Director Anna Davey for their truly expert insight on DNA database management. Thank you all for attending today's webinar, and we hope you found it interesting and useful for your continuing to improve your DNA database work. Also, please remember to fill out our survey that you will receive via email that you use to register for this webinar. The survey will help us provide feedback to the speakers, and it will help us find more topics of importance and interest to you for upcoming webinars. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.